You and I in a little toy shop, buy a bag of balloons with the money we've got, set them free at the break of dawn, till one by one they were gone. Back at base, box in the software, flash the message, something's out there, floating in the summer sky. 99 red balloons go by.
I Think You Knew by the spoken word that started this song on this day in 1984, 42 years ago. Nina began a 3-week run at number 1 on the UK singles chart with 99 red balloons. You may, because you live in this German town, right, know that the song was originally 99 Luftballons, a German song sung in the language German, but was re-recorded in English as 99 red balloons. Hit number 2 in the U.S. It was the only UK hit for Nina, making her a one-hit wonder. Did we do, I think we did, right? One-hit wonders on our All Request Friday already at one point. We'll probably come back to it. It was just on the top of my mind. I'm pretty sure we have done one-hit wonders before. 99 Luftballons, number 1 on this day in 1984 for Nina. This week's theme, by the way, on your All Request Friday is the song that annoys you. That's right. You can choose the 60 seconds of the song that bothers you and then bother everybody else with it as we enjoy our All Request Friday this week on the show. A couple of things. One, I should have mentioned yesterday and didn't, but I want to thank Lisa Blunden, I think I can call her out by her full name, and her daughter Caitlin, who spent Sunday afternoon with Josh Piercy and I in the David Schooley broadcast booth at the Kitchener Rangers game when the Rangers took on the Knights. These were pretty big Rangers fans, and it was a lot of fun to have them there. Lisa and Caitlin were there because Lisa won an early bird prize in the Chime 96.7 Tree of Hope Radiothon, or 50-50 raffle, in support of family and children's services. And what I thought was so cool is, so you remember that draw probably back around the holiday season when our sister station, Chime 96.7, really gets behind, and we all do here at the radio station, that effort on behalf of family and children's services to raise important funds for the important work that they do in the community. So the big 50-50 raffle, we put some incentives in there and hope to encourage you to buy more tickets or buy them early, as is the case with Lisa, because she won, I think it was the first early bird prize, which was that opportunity. They got to tour the Rangers dressing room, they got to watch warm up from down at ice level, and then they got to spend the game in the booth with Josh and I. And so I asked Lisa while she was there, because this is a campaign that runs primarily, or at least originated, with our sister station, Chime 96.7. So I said, do you listen to Brady and Tara every morning? Aren't they awesome? And Lisa had this confused look on her face. She's like, what do you mean? Who are these Brady and Tara people? I listen to 570 every day. I need to get my traffic and weather and all the information I need. And gosh darn it, Lisa, that made me really happy. So I'm glad that not only you won the early bird prize and got that Kitchener Rangers experience on Sunday, but that you won the prize because you heard about the raffle on this radio station, making this, of course, your favorite, right? The preset that you hit number 1 on when you get into the car every morning. And along those same lines, I'm actually pretty upset with Debbie, but I'm going to share her email with you anyway, because Debbie emailed me yesterday to Mike at 570news.com, said, Mike, as a regular listener of your show, I heard you mention the Rangers 50-50 draw that is going on. This is the Rangers Reach mega event that's going on right now. It launched just last week. It continues until March 13th. A prize per day being given away, including restaurant gift cards, signed NHL jerseys from local players or Rangers alum. Like it's an extensive draw. Not to mention, it started with a guaranteed jackpot of $50,000. So Debbie listens regularly. She hears us talk about this raffle on the show last week, and I thought, what the heck, I'll give it a go. So I proceeded to buy my tickets on Thursday, February the 26th. That would be last Thursday. I've never bought tickets before, but who knows? I'm fairly lucky. I decided to check my tickets yesterday, Debbie writes in her email, on the Rangers 50/50 website. Lo and behold, I won the first draw on Thursday evening. Is that bizarre or what? I may need to buy tickets every year from now on. Thanks for the nudge to buy the tickets. Enjoy your day. Listen, Debbie, I was enjoying my day until you mentioned that you had never bought tickets before. You bought them, and then you won. I have been buying, I know this is a familiar complaint, right? For 25 years, every game, home and away. So it might as well be like 50 years. I don't just buy them at home games, buy them on road games. Don Cameron and I used to buy our 50/50 tickets all the time. Not one time ever have I won a single shiny nickel in any 50/50 draw at a Kitchener Rangers game or other OHL game. Debbie buys first time, whatever. I guess the beginner's luck for Debbie, who won that first prize. I said a prize being awarded every day since this mega event jackpot launched It launched quietly last Wednesday evening, in full earnest as of last Thursday when Debbie bought her tickets. By the way, just checking in on it, the jackpot is almost $62,000. So it was guaranteed $50,000 to start. They've clearly gone past that point and now approaching $62,000 in the mega jackpot event. You can get tickets like Debbie. Listen, Debbie heard it on the show, bought a ticket, won. And by the way, Debbie, even though you won that early bird prize last Thursday evening, you're still in for the jackpot. That ticket still stays in the draw for the big money. Over $61,000, just under $62,000 right now. You can be like Debbie. Get yourself a ticket at Rangers5050.com. Beginner's luck, Debbie. Don't ever email me again.
1, 2.
All right, how about your Farwell Show 5 for this Tuesday morning, the 3rd of March? Number 1, it is go time for those new garbage and green bins in the region. You know, those monstrosities on wheels that we're supposed to leave at the end of our driveway, 2 feet apart, with the handle facing your house? Yeah, those ones. Your collection day may also have changed as of this week. So make sure you check the region's website at regionofwaterloo.ca. I use the Waste Whiz app, and it's pretty awesome. Keeps you up to date with all of that stuff if you want to just download the Waste Whiz app. But those new bins in service as of today. Number 2, a familiar face has returned to the region in a new role. Darshpreet Badi will start next week as Waterloo Region's new CAO, taking over from interim CAO Matthew Getsky. Badi worked for the region previously as Director of Rapid Transit before leaving for Calgary, where he oversaw construction of a new transit line there. Badi starts as CAO at the region next Monday. Number 3 on your Farwell Show 5 this morning, Guelph Police will not be participating in the federal government's latest firearms buyback program. The Guelph Police Service says it simply doesn't have the operational capacity to support the administrative program on behalf of the federal government. The Canada-wide declaration period for the assault-style firearms compensation program opened on January the 19th. It runs through the end of this month. Number 4, while the Kitchener Rangers were busy clinching the Midwest Division title in the OHL on the weekend, the Cambridge Redhawks were clinching the GOHL's Commissioner's Cup, that trophy awarded annually to the regular season GOHL champions, a spot the Redhawks assured themselves with a win Saturday over Ayr. The Redhawks, 88 points on the season, are 6 better than the St. Catharines Falcons, and the Falcons have only 2 games left to play. So let me see. Redhawks ahead by 6. Falcons, 2 games left to play. They get 2 points per game. They get 4. They can't catch up to the Redhawks. They cannot. So your Commissioner's Cup champions are the Cambridge Redhawks, who wrap up their regular season Saturday in Caledonia. And number 5 on your Farwell Show 5 this morning, Explore Waterloo Region has launched a new trail attraction. From now through April the 15th, you can indulge your sweet tooth. Says what? Yeah, let's indulge our sweet teeth, okay? It's the Taste of Maple Trail, taking you on a tour of the region's most creative, maple-infused food and drinks. Like, I just drink the stuff from the jar. I don't know about you. The idea is based on Explore Waterloo Region's popular Mistletoe Trail, which features magical holiday moments. You can find more details, including the trail map for the Taste of Maple Trail, on our website at kitchener.citynews.ca.
A Monday warrior, mean stride. Today's Tom Sawyer, mean pride.
Can I have 2 liters of pop? Can I have 2 liters of pop? Well, what's more healthy, 4 beers or 2 liters of Coca-Cola? Do the math.
That's a good question, but I think the healthiest thing to do is check out the Taste of Maple Trail. It is 11 minutes after 9 on your Tuesday morning. You know that the minute we begin the show every day, our phone lines are open to you at 519-570-2545, star 570, and 1-800-570-5715. And Doug is with us bright and early this morning. Good morning, Douglas.
Good morning, Mike. I'm positive that your outlook truly is that even though you go to these events to support the 50-50 draw, that's why you buy it, is to support.
You're right. That's what Don Cameron taught me. He said, when we go to these other rinks too, it's probably supporting a local hockey team or a minor sports organization. You work in sports, you put your $5 down and buy a ticket. There. I listened to Don. Absolutely.
Well, you can imagine over the years the number of entertainment, events, festivals that Patty and I have been to. We always, we buy the tickets. You put the tickets in the bags. We buy the 50-50 tickets, and we rarely, if ever, win anything. We happen to be at a festival up north, and we won a weekend long 50-50 draw, so we donated half of it back because it felt kind of weird being involved with the entertainment and winning a prize. Anyway,
well, listen. Doug. Let me. Okay.
I'm sorry.
No. Let me just say this. I'm there. I understand. I get to work in sports, but I want the jackpot. I'm sorry. I'm not as good a man as you are. Okay. All right. Anyway.
I didn't say I didn't want it. Just that I don't expect it. Anyway, the real reason I called had to do with the weather. Someone earlier this week, they were absolutely over the top with the fact that the temperature by this weekend could be 30 degrees different than what it was earlier this week, and I kind of had to giggle because many moons ago when I was in the military out west in Calgary, there was pretty much almost in the wintertime, there were days, not every day, but there were quite often days when I would get up and go to breakfast, walking through 6 inches or 7 inches of snow on one base, and then when it came time to go back for lunch, there was a little bit of snow banked around the hydro poles. A Chinook would come through, and literally it would change the temperature by as much as 20 to 30 degrees Celsius easily. And it got to be kind of a habit. So out here at home, where it just stays cold all day, it's kind of hard to cope with.
I totally get it, Doug, and I have long longed for a Chinook in these here parts because I've heard great things. I've been watching the news when it happens, and I see these Calgarians enjoying balmy spring-like temperatures, like nice spring temperatures in the mid-teens in the middle of January when one of those Chinooks comes through. Meanwhile, here in southern Ontario, we are mere centimeters, like 5 centimeters away from setting a new snowfall record for any winter here in the region of Waterloo. And it has not let up since that first snowfall back on November the 9th. Like, we have just been, so no wonder we're looking so forward to this. I have it on good authority that by next week, around this time next week, the snowpack that we have on the ground is likely to be gone because, yes, by this weekend, we will be into the double digits. It sounds like we're going to get a couple of days consecutively of those double digits, and that snowpack will be gone. However, I remain unconvinced that we will not set that snowfall record, even though the snowpack is going to disappear next week with the mild temperatures that really start getting going tomorrow. The snow will disappear, but it's only early March, right? We are probably in for some more snow. Ugh, perish the thought. But anyway, we'll leave that over there. We'll look forward to the snowpack melting next week. I wanted to ask you about these new garbage bins, especially like you might be in the service area where it's day one for you with the new bins, right? And also, I'm hoping for some help from our friends down the road in Guelph, where I know this program has been in operation for several years now. I'm struggling with this, and I know part of it is because you struggle with change when you reach a certain age and stage of life. But I've watched the videos from the region. Corey Kimpson, the Ward 3 councillor in Cambridge, God bless her, posted a picture of how the bins should look at the end of your driveway, because you can't leave them in a snowbank, right? There's so much ding-dang snow. So you have to have them 2 feet apart so the big mechanical arms can properly pick up the garbage bin and the green bin and the blue recycling bins. And you have to leave them at the end of your driveway on a nice flat piece of concrete, asphalt, whatever it's sitting on by that point, probably just at the edge on the asphalt. And then what? Like, how? I know this is a first world problem, but how am I getting out of my driveway? Like, so I'm gonna put the bins out at night. I'm gonna get up in the morning. I'm gonna move the bins so I can get my car out of the driveway. I'm gonna leave my car in the middle of the street to put the bins back. I'm gonna drive to work. Then my beloved's gonna get up a few hours later so she can go to work. She's gonna repeat the process. And then I'm gonna come home from work and presumably the bins will be again blocking the entrance to my driveway. Like, help me out. What? I don't understand. What are we supposed to do? Like, what? I don't understand. I know that when the weather gets better and the snow disappears next week, great. Then we can leave the bins on the side of the grass at the curb. That will be better. But what are we to do then in the wintertime? Our collection day has changed, so I'm already looking forward to this week. Our collection day will be Thursday. I'm in Sarnia with the Kitchener Rangers on Wednesday night. So here's what I envision happening, because my beloved being my beloved, she will have the garbage out. She'll have it to the curb on Wednesday evening for Thursday morning pickup. I'll come home a little after midnight from the hockey game. I'll move the bin so I can get in the driveway. I'll get up in the morning. The collection will not have happened yet. I'll move those bins and go through that whole process. Anyway, if you have the bins out today, how did it work for you? If you're from Guelph, where this plan has already been in place for a while, God bless you. Help me out. Again, I recognize this is a first world problem that I'm having here, but I can't wrap my head around how this is making things better. I'm sorry. Except I suppose, and I should be empathetic towards those workers who have been slugging bags and picking up bins for all these years. We're going to save wear and tear on their bodies. I just don't know how the hell I'm supposed to get into and out of my driveway in the wintertime when these bins have to sit there 2 feet apart across the entire length of my driveway or width of my driveway. What am I supposed to do? I'm confused, but maybe you can help me get over this confusion. How do these bins work if you've been using them already? How did they work today if you had them out? What's your plan? Let's crowdsource a plan for the new monstrosities that are the garbage and green bins in the region. This is the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. I know there's an answer to this question, so I'm just asking you for a little help, particularly if you're in Guelph and you've already been using these large wheeled bins to get your garbage, compostables, recycling to the curb. How do you navigate in the wintertime when you got to move your vehicle in and out of that same driveway that these bins now block? I'm asking for a friend, as they say. We'll go to the phones. Dennis is with us. Good morning, Dennis.
Hey, how you doing, Mike?
I'm good. How are you?
Not too bad. I've been listening to you about these bins now for months.
I know you're in Guelph. Help me out. What do you do?
Look, it's simple. If you got a smaller driveway, put one bin on each side of the driveway.
One bin on each side of the driveway, and then you could drive right through the middle.
Then you can get through the middle. But do what most people do. If you got a snow blower, when the snow starts in the winter before it builds up,
listen, Dennis,
keep a little piece of your boulevard clean.
A little piece? You need a football field's worth for these bins.
Mike, these bins aren't that big.
All right.
We've been doing this now for years.
I like the bin on either side of the driveway. That's a great idea. Problem solved. Yeah. Okay. And also, snowblower. I don't need no snowblower. I'm powered by Armstrong, pal.
Well, that's good. Just keep a piece of your boulevard clean and put them up there.
All right, Dennis. I appreciate it. I tried keeping my catch basin clean this year, and then the plow came by. And then the plow came by again and again and again. You know how hard it is to keep your catch basin clear? It didn't help that I buggered my shoulder either. Mary, good morning.
Oh, hi, Mike.
Hi, Mary. Yes, I can.
Hi.
Hi.
Oh, hi. Just let me get it. Yes, I can.
Okay, and there goes Mary. I don't know what happened. Mary, what did you just do? I don't know what you just did. Thank you to my intrepid producer support, Justine, who sent me this screenshot of an Instagram post yesterday from Play with Clay Cambridge. And the post, so it shows a green bin, a black bin, a blue bin lined up outside their business in Cambridge. And there's a whole line of them going down the street. You can see all the bins as far as the eye can see. And the post from Play with Clay Cambridge says, "This is Armageddon. Up to 3 days ago, our once beautiful historical downtown turned into a 2 bodybuilder-sized garbage can depot. Look at our business fronts. None of those downtown properties can store them inside. There must be another solution for downtowns," says Play with Clay Cambridge. It doesn't look great. I'll give you that, Play with Clay. Shelley, good morning.
Good morning, Mike. I'm not from Guelph. I'm from Kitchener, but I have a suggestion for people that have a single residence with a small driveway. Use every week as collection. So 1 week you'd put out just your one large garbage pail, and then the opposite week put out your green bin and your recycle bins.
Yeah, well, you have to do that anyway. You can't put the garbage out every week. It is only bi-weekly.
Right. But then the opposite week, you could put out your green bin, and which green bin can go out every week, but just put out one garbage pail, and then the opposite week do green bin and the recycle bins.
All right.
And then it's
Shelley,
more room in there. We're going to figure this out, Mike. We're going to figure it out. I promise you.
Thank you, Shelley. I appreciate it. Again, that's the way it has to work. Even with the new bins, you don't get to put your garbage out every week. You have to follow the schedule. It's still bi-weekly for the big garbage bin. But when I've watched these productions online from the region and from some of our municipal councillors who are showing us how to get it done, that's a whole lot of bins across the bottom of the driveway. I can't believe I didn't think of what Dennis pointed out, though. That's perfect. One bin on either side. So when I put out what are we doing this week? We get garbage this week and green bin this week. Oh, wait, I guess we're going to have all three. Garbage, green, and blue this week. Well, that's okay. If I crack my new blue bin backing out of the driveway in the morning, I'm not going to move them twice. I guarantee ding dang to you, I'm not moving them twice. I'm into working smarter, not harder. I'm going to get you an update from the 570 News Center, and then let's talk about Canada's position on the U.S. bombing of Iran. Is there some political risk here on this side of the border? We'll talk about it next on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
This is where today's topics turn into today's talking points. It's local and it's Democratic radio at its finest. This is the Mike Farwell Show on 570 News Radio.
Canada stands with the Iranian people in their long and courageous struggle against this oppressive regime, and we reaffirm Israel's right to defend itself. Canada supports the United States acting to prevent Iran from obtaining a nuclear weapon and to prevent its regime from further threatening international peace and security.
The Mike Farwell Show continues
on 570 News Radio.
That was, of course, Prime Minister Mark Carney on Sunday, in the hours really after the U.S. announced it had bombed Iran. Our Minister of Foreign Affairs, Anita Anand, posted on social media yesterday that it's key for us to remember that Canada wasn't involved. We weren't notified, and we do not have any intention to be involved in any military strikes or operation. In addition, Canada believes in a diplomatic and peaceful solution to the ongoing troubles in the Middle East. Stephanie Carvin is an associate professor of international relations at the Norman Patterson School of International Affairs at Carleton University. Joins us to talk about this. Stephanie, good morning.
Good morning.
Some conflicting messaging here, I think, from the Prime Minister and one of our cabinet ministers. And of course, maybe this is just the sort of state of flux you find yourself in the early hours after something like this occurs. But what do you make of those different tones, I guess, from Minister Anand and Prime Minister Carney?
Yeah, and I'll add a third tone to that, which was we saw the Minister of Defense basically come out today and say, that's David McGuinty, of course, say that, yeah, no, he was kind of more on Team Carney, which was, yeah, no, we support what's happening. We support the operation. So, yeah, I mean, I think, like, it's the responsibility of the government to put a coherent statement. Let's start there, okay? And I don't think they've done that, and I don't think that's helpful. Secondly, though, I think part of the problem is that the United States and Israel have not put out a good justification of what they are trying to achieve or what their objectives are. So we've heard everything from regime change to, kind of liberating the people, to getting rid of the nuclear building program that is in Iran. I mean, all different kinds of things. So, it without the kind of clear objectives being stated by the United States, I think it's hard for Canada to form a position to respond to what's actually happening. And to a certain extent, it's clear that Canada, or at least cabinet's trying to respond in real time, and we're seeing conflicting statements. But, we also have a choice of not saying very much at all. And I'm kind of surprised that this choice is not being taken.
In other words, just let the U.S. do U.S. things and we'll focus on other things?
Well, I'm just kind of like, there's a lot of domestic pressure to say certain things. I mean, obviously there's people like, I don't want to beat around the bush here. I mean, the Iranian regime is odious and it's awful, and it's killed tens of thousands of people, possibly up to 30,000 protesters by some counts just this year alone. So like, let's not pretend that this is a regime we should actively mourn should it fall. But that being said, there's a lot of consequences to what's happening. So, so I think that there is this expectation that we will say something, but, I think we need to either agree or disagree with the objectives of the operations. And without that being very clear, I don't know what we are exactly responding to. And I think it's kind of put this position, it's put the Carney government in a position where it is effectively saying, yeah, we kind of agree with this, but also we want a peaceful solution, but also we want diplomacy. But yes, we agree with the strikes. And, it's just, it's a bit of a mess. It's a bit of a mess.
I can't help but think, Stephanie, that there is the backdrop of the ongoing CUSMA renegotiations to all of this from the Canadian perspective. Is that too simplistic to think that the position we take here may impact our ability to negotiate over there?
I really hope not. I think, you have to keep these things in mind. But at the end of the day, Canada is really not a player in the Middle East. I think sometimes Canadians think our opinion matters and things like that. It really doesn't. Like, we don't have a ton of assets over there. I think, don't get me wrong. I think there's like over 10,000 Canadians just living in the UAE alone. But to a large extent, we're not that big of a player, and we don't have a lot of influence. We're not really part of the major conversations about what's happening either in Israel, Palestine, now in Iran as well. And we haven't had a diplomatic presence in Iran for since 2012 either. So again, there is this pressure, I think, to kind of have this definitive statement, but the reality is on the ground that we just really aren't very big players. So this idea that we have to have this clear, definitive stance on an operation that's very much in flux, and an operation that, again, it's not clear what the objectives are. I'm desperately concerned that Trump is just simply going to get bored of it and then just walk away, leaving that entire region in flames. And Lord knows what will happen after that. So yeah, I mean, Kuzma plays a role here, but I do think that these are, to the extent that this is going to be on Trump's mind in June is not a gamble that I would necessarily keep, because I also think it's very likely he may just simply walk away in 4 to 5 weeks, regardless of what the situation is on the ground.
Does that lean into the idea that perhaps this decision on the part of Donald Trump and the U.S. administration is a bit of a distraction from other things they'd rather we not be paying attention to right now?
I don't know. I'm always, Trump is a chaos engine regardless. And I mean, yes, I've seen the idea of the Epstein files, and certainly I think the Trump administration would welcome any chance to change the channel. But I mean, this has been something that's been going on for weeks, and there's a lot of people around the president who have been encouraging him to take these actions. We saw back in January, he said, "Don't worry, Iranian people, come out and protest because help is coming," and then he didn't send any help, and that's when the 30,000 people were killed by the regime, sadly, if those reports are actually correct. So yeah, I mean, it's hard to say if this is just simply a war of distraction and things like that. I mean, you don't just suddenly attack Iran. You have to build up. You have to get your troops in the area and things like that. But I think the potential for this to turn into a tremendous mess that affects the rest of the Trump administration is also something that's very much on the card. So if it's a distraction, it's a heck of a choice.
I would concur, absolutely. As I would, Stephanie, with your point earlier that this previous, I guess I'll say for now, Iranian regime was a rather odious one. I don't think many.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't think many would disagree with that at all. The question I still have from afar, where I'm sitting today, is if there is anything in place that suggests regime change is even possible here. I mean, after all, the supreme leader was 86 years old. Surely there was a succession plan already in place. I don't know. Do you get any sense that there is an opportunity here for the Iranian people to reshape their government?
It's a very good question. This regime is in survival mode. It has one priority above all else, which is its own survival. And I think that it's telling that, these initial operations against Iran were so successful because Israel, has incredible intelligence on Iran. Iran would rather focus on suppressing its own people than rooting out the spies basically within its own regime, right? It puts its own survival above everything else, and it's determined. And a lot of the strikes that have been going on against the other countries in the region, the UAE, Qatar, Jordan, everywhere else where there's now a travel warning in the entire region, all of those strikes happened after the Ayatollah was killed, right? So there is someone in the Iranian deep state who is, for lack of a better word, I don't like the deep state, but like the fact is that they have been thinking about this regime's survival for a very long time. They will cling to this. This is a revolutionary mentality, right? This is not something, they see this as something beyond just, a nice to have. This is a sacred duty to preserve the revolution, the Iranian revolution, and to export it abroad. So, they're not going to go into that good night. They are going to fight as hard as they can, whether or not I saw, the U.S. Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, talk about, we said, well, we wouldn't send in 200,000 troops. I mean, you would need more than that, possibly double that to actually occupy, to fully root out. And even, I think, if the regime fell, there's millions of people who continue to be loyal to the Iranian revolution. And I think we would be in a situation of effectively what we saw in Iraq. after the fall of the Saddam regime, where you would see a civil war brewing and you would see resistance elements continue to be in that country for years to come. This is not going to be solved with a few decapitation strikes. This is going to be a mess. And why I'm so concerned about what's happening in that region, even as, you know, we can absolutely be certain that the regime, which has killed so many of its own people, is odious.
Stephanie, really appreciate your perspective on the show this morning. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me on.
Stephanie Carvin joins us. She's an associate professor of international relations at the Norman Patterson School of International Affairs at Carleton University, and kind of a go-to on issues like this. I'm sure you've heard Stephanie speak before on this show and elsewhere as a commentator on such issues. But I find the confusing messages, I guess, from Canada confusing. I think you would want to be unified. It certainly doesn't help a whole lot, obviously. I'm trying to open my paper at the same time here because I want to share something with you from the paper today that caught my attention with regard to this very issue. But Canada should have gotten its messaging amalgamated on this. And I don't necessarily disagree with Stephanie's point that, you know, we find ourselves in a world today, I suppose, whereby opinion, response, reaction to this, that, or the other thing is always sought. I think I can understand it from the perspective of our Prime Minister, especially with the backdrop of renegotiating a trade deal with the United States. How does this, you know, our support for or opposition to this mission impact trade negotiations, even though I recognize those are dramatically different things we're talking about here, right? We're talking about a military operation that has already wrought casualties versus, hey, can we get these tariffs taken away or lowered? Like, I understand they're completely different things, but when you have these two nations, Canada and the U.S., embroiled in the one thing, you might want their reaction to another. But it's not to, you know, we shouldn't overstate our own impact in all of this and how big a player that Canada is in all of these things, which, to Stephanie's point, we're not that big a player in this. So how important is our voice in this reaction and response to it? I don't know. We are beefing up defense spending too, and maybe we want to have more military might, but we certainly don't have it now. One of the letters to the editor in today's Globe and Mail came from Brian in Guelph, Aramosa, and I wanted to share this with you because it fits right into what we're talking about this morning. The letter reads as follows: I can only guess that Mark Carney's support for the attack on Iran is based on his desire to bring financial success to our country. Understandable, considering his background. I find it just plain wrong for many reasons. I will only cite one. Donald Trump did not go to U.S. Congress to ask for support for this war, nor did he seek the support for this war, nor did he seek the support of the United Nations. I believe the United States and Israel are beginning a major upset to Middle East stability and even to safety and security in the world. I had such high hopes for Mr. Carney when he became our Prime Minister. That from Brian in Guelph, Aramosa, in today's Globe and Mail. How do you feel about Canada's response, maybe the confusing nature of those messages from Anita Anand or our Prime Minister? Do you support the U.S. military strike in Iran and its continuation, by the way? You heard Stephanie Carvin mention the concern about Donald Trump getting bored, and by June, he's out of here, leaving the Mideast in flames. We've got a bit of a response to that as well. But would love to get your thoughts on this military operation conducted over the weekend, now into day 4, led by the United States and Israel in Iran. Regime change has to happen there. I don't think we're going to disagree. How do we feel about the tactics being employed to date? And to Brian's point, the fact that the United Nations was not consulted on this, nor was U.S. Congress. Your thoughts always welcome on the Mike Farwell Show. This is 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
I think that there is this expectation that we will say something, but I think we need to either agree or disagree with the objectives of the operations. And without that being very clear, I don't know what we are exactly responding to. And I think it's kind of put the Carney government in a position where it is effectively saying, yeah, we kind of agree with this, but also we want a peaceful solution, but also we want diplomacy. But yes, we agree with the strike. It's a bit of a mess. It's a bit of a mess.
Stephanie Carvin is an associate professor of international relations at the Norman Patterson School of International Affairs at Carleton University. Joins us to talk about that messy communication from our federal government. Prime Minister Carney coming out initially within hours of the military operations beginning, led by the United States and Israel, and saying that the United States essentially has Canada's full support. Our Minister of Foreign Affairs, Anita Anand, walked that back a little bit or had a slightly different take on it. And then, as Ms. Carvin pointed out this morning, our Defense Minister, David McGuinty, has now brought a third take into all of this, which more closely aligns with what the Prime Minister had to say on Sunday. 519-570-2545, star 570 and 1-800-570-5715. I couldn't help but think of Mark Carney and his role as the Prime Minister when I listened to him speak about this on Sunday. And I thought, oh, yeah, so you wanted to be Prime Minister, eh? Because I'm sure you have this idea, probably a vague idea about the entirety of the job. But it's my sense that Mark Carney's interest in becoming Prime Minister was to reshape, reinvent, recalibrate the Canadian economy. And all of a sudden now you're on really what amounts to a trade mission to India to try to, patch up some bad feelings there and open new export markets. And all of a sudden you're being asked, hey, how about this military operation in Iran? How do you feel about that? So you wanted to be Prime Minister, right? Donald Trump was talking about the length of this conflict and how invested the United States is in it. And this goes back to what Stephanie Carvin said moments ago about her concerns that Donald Trump will get bored and by June just walk away from Iran and leave the Mideast in flames. Here's what President Trump had to say about this operation just yesterday.
Today, the United States military continues to carry out large-scale combat operations in Iran to eliminate the grave threats posed to America by this terrible terrorist regime. Following our obliteration of Iran's nuclear program in Operation Midnight Hammer a short while ago, we warned Iran not to make any attempt to rebuild at a different location because they were unable to use the ones that we so powerfully blew up. But they ignored those warnings and refused to cease their pursuit of nuclear weapons. This was our last best chance to strike what we're doing right now and eliminate the intolerable threats posed by this sick and sinister regime. And they are indeed sick and sinister, and we will easily prevail. We're already substantially ahead of our time projections, but whatever the time is, right from the beginning, we projected 4 to 5 weeks, but we have capability to go far longer than that. We'll do it. Whatever somebody said today, they said, oh, well, if the president wants to do it really quickly. After that, he'll get bored. I don't get bored. There's nothing boring about this.
Nothing boring about this. Day 4 of a 4 to 5 week operation, but they're prepared to be there longer if they need to be. Let's go to the phones. Paul is with us. Good morning, Paul.
Morning, Mike. Hey, I have some family that's lived down there for years, and I just wanted to pass along some of the little items that we've heard in the last little while. One of them is that he has 60 days to do whatever he wants. All the talk about not speaking with Congress or anything isn't necessary. He's got 60 days to do whatever he wants before he has to get approval. I don't know the full extent of all that, but that's just that one. I did hear on one news report that they're not looking for regime change. They're just looking to stop them from nuclear capabilities and the like, and they've been funding terrorist actions all throughout the world for years, and that's pretty much the objective. And the point I heard was they wanted the people to eventually try and take over themselves,
which would effectively be regime change, right?
Yeah, but not. They don't want to be involved in. That's what I heard.
No, I get you.
They don't want to be involved in it.
I got you. Okay, and I got to run for news, Paul, but really appreciate that perspective. I love how we crowdsource information on the show. It's the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. I had an interesting conversation with a media colleague this past weekend. Well, it was Josh Brown, who writes for the Waterloo Region Record, covers the Kitchener Rangers. So Brownie and I like to call him Brownie, see a lot of each other during the hockey season. And we were having dinner at the Memorial Auditorium on Friday night in the media room together. And he just brought up this water issue that we're dealing with in the region. He says, how have you guys been covering that? How do you feel about it? What's your sense? And what I said to Josh then, and I will share with you now, is that I wish I understood it better. I mean, I understand that we have a capacity problem, right? There's nothing wrong with the quality of the water coming out of our taps, but we clearly do not have enough water to comfortably sustain ourselves today. We're over that buffer limit we like to keep in our system, and we certainly don't have the capacity currently to deal with the increasing population that we anticipate in the next quarter century, another 300,000 people or so. You know all of this as well as I do. But when it gets into these, 30,000 whatever liters per second, I can't keep all the numbers straight, right? This many liters per second, this many liters a day from this aggregate pit, the aquifer being at this percent capacity. All of this stuff is well beyond my scope of comprehension. A hydrogeologist, I ain't. And so as much as I want to understand it better, it's just beyond my scope. But I have been sharing with you some conversations that I've had with farmers in Wilmot Township who say they have seen this problem coming for years. They've noticed it because they're on the land every day. They need water for their business operations, and they have seen the impacts. And so we're able, thanks to our next guest, to bring one of those, a similar story, not a farmer, but a resident who has been directly impacted by this. And I hope this helps to shed a little bit more light, getting beyond the liters per second and the capacity deficiency here and the Mannheim water treatment system there. This is like real life stuff, as we're joined on the show by Martha Bricker, who lives just outside Petersburg in Wilmot Township. Martha, thank you very much for joining the show. Good morning.
Good morning.
You were at Regional Council last week when they were discussing this issue, and you brought your personal story to that council meeting so that councillors could understand the impact on you and your property. What message did you take to Regional Council last week?
Well, I just said that my husband and I we live on in that area, and our well has been going dry since last fall. Not all the time, but on days when I do my laundry or a little bit more water usage than regular every day, then our well goes dry. And so I have kind of figured out that I can't do more than 1 or 2 loads of laundry in a day, so I have to spread out everything. I have to kind of manage the time when we use water, otherwise our well goes dry. Then we wait for 12 hours for the well to recover. Then we can start using the water again.
What is it like? Do you get any warning? How do you know that the well may be on the verge of going dry? Like, how do you go about your day-to-day activities in light of that?
Well, the water pressure goes down. You turn the tap on and you have good water pressure, but then next time you turn the water on, there is hardly any water pressure, and it keeps going down and down until there's no water. So then we turn our pump off because, of course, we don't want to burn out our pump, and then wait the 12 hours.
For how?
And then,
Sorry, go ahead.
Well, and then I have jugs of water that I keep on hand now, so that we have some water to use to wash our hands and cook and that sort of thing.
Sure, because you could start the morning and by mid-afternoon, all of a sudden, there is none of that pressure left, and you've still got 8 hours of a day to go through.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
So for how long, Martha, have you been drawing from your own well? Like, when did you start noticing a change in all of this?
We have lived there for 50 years, and we've never really had a problem except for, extreme times. But probably the last 4 months for sure, our well has gone dry regularly. Probably we've seen a more shortage of water in the last year.
Do you have any idea why?
Well, no, we had no idea until we went to the regional council meeting on Wednesday night and found out that the region were taking 30 liters per second more during the last 2 years, kind of breaching the contract of the 1980 water taking permit or the agreement. So I had no idea that it would have been because of the water taking. But then we hear that the gravel pit, the Esba sand and gravel pit, were wanting to take 9.7 million liters a day. So that kind of panicked us, thinking, how the heck are we going to have any water after they start doing that,
So what's a day in the life like, Martha, knowing like when you get up in the morning, you may not have sufficient water coming from that well by the end of the day? How do you go about your day-to-day activities? Well, we just monitor the amount of water we use. For instance, for laundry, I do smaller loads and spread it out over the period of a few days. We say, okay, we'll have a shower at this time of day, and if we're going to use put the dishwasher on, we say, okay, we're going to do it tonight. And, you just have to kind of manage the time, and hopefully you make it through the day without the well going dry. I can only imagine, though, the level of anxiety that is associated with this on a day-to-day basis. Well, yeah, it's not, you just can't go through a regular day and do normal things. You have to plan your day, which we shouldn't have to do. We're seniors. We shouldn't have to worry about things like that at our age. Well, and I would think, too, given, where we live, this is a very modern part of the world. I wouldn't think we should have to be worried about these sorts of things. I think it's the very sort of thing that government's supposed to take care of for us. That's right. That's right. And we own our property. We have the right to have water. We have a well. We have a right to have water there. Where is your well fed from? These same underground aquifers, obviously. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not really sure. I'm not technical, but we have a dug well, which is different than a drilled well, but we've always had enough water. There's never been a shortage before. So I'm assuming it's the same aquifer, the same underground water place that everyone else gets their water. Yeah. So what do you make of this situation we find ourselves here in the region with the water shortage? Well, I think, I don't think they should be taking any more water. I think all us people in the country that have private wells should have the water first before the city. Like there must be other ways of getting water. How was your message received at council last week, do you think? I didn't have any questions asked to me. The only question was our mayor, Natasha Salonen. She asked if I had reported it. And I had said no, because I had no idea that we needed to do that. So I have reported it now. I'm in the process of reporting it to the region of Waterloo now. But other than that, no one really said anything, except that the people
after me were interrogated a little bit more about the water issues. So whether that had anything to do with it, I'm not sure.
I know it would be, because you've talked about, Martha, the changes that you've made in terms of, the number of loads of laundry, when you run the dishwasher, the water that you keep on hand in case it runs out during the day. So I assume this would be a more drastic step. But have you given thought to moving somewhere else where this wasn't a concern, just given the weight that it puts on you on a daily basis?
Well, my husband and I have talked about, at some point we're going to have to sell and move, but we're hoping we don't have to do that. We've lived there for so long that we're hoping we wouldn't have to move, in the near future. But if push comes to shove, we don't have the water, we're going to have to, right?
Well, this again, and it comes back to this idea that, as we've both said, this is not something that the average citizen should have to be worried about.
No, and property value goes down too when everybody's running out of water. Like, what is the property value going to be like?
That's another interesting question I hadn't considered. Martha, I really appreciate you sharing the story with us today. Thank you very much for joining the show.
Thank you.
Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Thanks, you too. Bye-bye.
Martha Bricker is a senior living near Petersburg. The well on the property, 50 years. Martha and her husband have been there. And in the last many months, the well on the property has begun to run dry. So you got to just think of all of the impacts of that, right? So you're constantly wondering / worrying about water. You are changing the way you go about your day-to-day activities because, heaven forbid, the water run dry, including having jugs of water on hand for the occasions that it has run dry and you still needed to wash your hands, do whatever else you may have needed to do. And then, of course, if it's running dry, you better shut that pump off because you don't want to burn out the pump. This is, again, setting aside the liters per second or the liters per day from an aggregate pit, which I understand, by the way, uses a different level, if you will, of the water table, kind of skimming off the top layer as opposed to the secondary and tertiary layers that are there for residents to use or the township to use, the region to use for our aquifers and our water supply, et cetera. But nonetheless, you hear all of these numbers. We talk about all of this infrastructure. And to me, it's getting more and more difficult to keep up with all of it. And, here's Martha and her husband, a place they've lived for half a century, figuring out how to get by when their well now can sometimes run dry. That's I think, a much more tangible story for us to get behind and understand better. We'll take your calls right after this. Phone lines are open on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
We went to the regional council meeting on Wednesday night and found out that the region were taking 30 liters per second more during the last 2 years, breaching the contract of the 1980 water taking permit or the agreement. So I had no idea that it would have been because of the water taking.
Martha Bricker lives just outside Petersburg and is experiencing firsthand this water crisis. It is a crisis for her. The home that she and her husband have lived in for 50 years has its own well. It's a dug well, and it runs dry some days now, forcing them to change their daily consumption habits. Let's go to the phones, hear from you. Mary is with us. Good morning, Mary.
Oh, good morning, Mike. You know what? This whole scenario makes me sick. Think of what this is doing to poor people. And the region is acting illegally, taking water where they weren't to take that much.
Yeah, since 1980, that agreement was in place. They violated their own agreement with the township.
But Mike, there's something wrong at a regional level now. They just do things and they just don't care. Like, you think of that poor woman. How would you like to deal with that?
Exactly.
Well, it's yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and it could also be a couple living with a couple of kids.
Sure.
Babies, Like, I'm very unhappy with what our regional council has been like in the last 5 years. They don't tell nobody nothing. Right?
Mary, I have a hard time disagreeing. I think there has been a transparency problem for sure. Perhaps those senior officials who were walked out the door recently that were in charge of water, part of their exit package should have been to go and spend a few days with the Brickers and see what it's like living with the water situation like this. Rory, good morning.
Mike, good morning. How are things?
Good, thanks. You?
Yeah, not too shabby. I appreciate you having the Brickers on the show. And it is another story in what appears to almost be a daily occurrence now of people within Wilmot Township, certainly within the area of those Wilmot well aquifers, that are continuously coming out and saying, I'm having problems with my wells, I'm having problems with my wetlands, I'm having problems with our water table continuously going down and having to drill new wells. And, what are we going to do now? Are we going to replicate what we've done to the Mannheim wells in Wilmot for the sake of providing water to our urban centers, all the while where these private well owners are being sucked, dried, and ignored because nobody wants to take responsibility for the private well owners. So you're hearing it, Mike, from farmers. I'm hearing it from farmers in Wilmot. I'm hearing it from business owners in Wilmot who directly rely on water to enable their business plans. And now you're hearing it from residents who, quite frankly, Mike, when you hear of people needing jugs of water to get through their day, does that sound like Waterloo Region, or does that sound like other areas of the world that we should be more concerned about? It's shocking that this is happening in Waterloo Region, and there needs to be accountability by all levels of government to take care of these people who are obviously seeing for their own eyes what's happening at the source, Mike.
Rory, really well said, and I will echo that point. Does this sound like Waterloo Region? Hell no, it really doesn't. I'm still blown away by this, and the fact that we didn't know, we missed the boat. I don't know what we did wrong. Kathy, good morning.
Hi. I've lived out in the country with drilled water wells my whole life. I moved to where I have a dug well. Dug wells are not anywhere near the same as drilled wells. When you have a problem with the drilled well going dry, with the water table going up and down over a vast area, there's something wrong. No doubt about that. I'm afraid this elderly couple that have filed a complaint are going to be told they have to drill a well to get rid of their dug well. Dug wells are not really liked very well anymore. They were old.
But it doesn't change the fact, Kathy, that for 50 years their water has been sufficient.
Oh,
yeah.
But the exact same thing happened where I am here, too.
And you're where again? Oxford?
Yep.
Yeah.
And I'm near a wetland area. And my wetland area, the neighbors have been here, living here their whole life, over 70 years. They never saw the wetland area go so dry this year. But it wasn't water taking, it was dry weather for me. But Wilmot's got a different problem because of their proximity with the region taking the water from the aquifer. The water table goes up and down there all the time. I have sump pumps on my property because of the wetland area. They stopped going in August, and they did not start again until we had some rain and a thaw in January. And that never happened before either. That was weather-related for me. But the thing that you're talking about there is a different situation. When you've got drilled wells that are going on and off, and you go deeper and they keep going off, that's a bigger problem. But this well business is an issue that people out in the country, unfortunately, are responsible for taking care of the quantity and the quality. And that's the other thing. The water testing, I had to get an ultraviolet light put in for contaminants. There are all sorts of things that a private country well owner has to pay for.
Absolutely. And we've heard that before as well. But I'll just go back to Rory's point, and I could not agree with it more. Imagine in Waterloo Region needing to have jugs of water on hand because the water in your well might run dry later that day, when for 50 years there hasn't been a speck of trouble with it. What an interesting time we're living in here in the region of Waterloo. This is the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. The first Tuesday of every month means a couple of things. One of those things, as I'm sure you know, between 11 and noon, it is Ask the Chief. Our policing leaders will be with us in studio, giving you the chance to have your policing questions answered directly. That's coming up in just over 30 minutes' time from 11 until noon. Something else we do on the first Tuesday of every month is what we call the Tuesday Tech Spotlight, shining a brighter light on one of the startups in our community. Today, that happens to be Open Shortlist. The co-founder and CEO there is Mo Nazaria, who joins the show. Mo, good morning.
Good morning, Mike. Thank you for having me.
Oh, thanks very much for making the time. I love learning more about these startups in our community, the people who found them. What is Open Shortlist?
That's a great question. So Open Shortlist is a tech startup. We help organizations effectively scale their recruiting operations. We use their internal data, and we use agentic AI technology to help them scale the task that they have to do, effectively freeing up their recruiters' time to focus on candidates, focus on relationships, use their human insights, and obviously do this more efficiently and give them back time and what they need to actually be able to make the best hiring decisions. That's effectively what we're all about.
So basically, you get 800 resumes for a given application or for a given position, and Open Shortlist will help you kind of cut through that clutter and get to the ones that might be best suited for it?
That's one of the tasks that we help them with. But effectively, when we work with organizations, and especially teams that are larger or they have a large data set, what we typically find is that a lot of the candidates they look for, they've already talked to before, and we help them surface that information. And also there's tons of learnings from their previous interactions with candidates, whether that's through what hiring managers decided or how candidates performed. And that helps them make better decisions as they interact with candidates and move forward. So the nuances and the details actually add up and make this a much better use of a recruiter's time to focus on insights that really matter and get to that short list of, the right candidates to talk to. And this could be people that have applied. This could be people that are already out there in the market or maybe in their talent pool. And so our technology helps them bring all that into one place and synchronize that with their own data and kind of make more sense of it.
How do you keep the AI that you use as free as possible from bias?
That is a great question, and it has to do with how we look at the playbooks of the organization. So what we do is we pay attention to how their recruiters are making decisions. We have some pre-trained information that we give to the AI agent of how we expect it to behave and how we want it to make decisions. Ultimately, of course, the final decision is always with a human, but the AI is looking at their playbooks, how they behave, how they make their decisions, and suggests next moves based on their patterns, based on what they've seen actually work. So look at the outcome and the data.
Where did the idea come from, Mo? What gave you the idea to start Open Shortlist?
That's a great question. I've been in recruiting for many years, and my co-founders all have been involved in hiring for product and technology positions. And it's always been a pain point. And we realized that a lot of these issues come from lack of insight, lack of data into what's happening. And some of the barriers to that are not the fact that the data doesn't exist. It's because it's hard to access or too expensive for organizations to have someone go in and extract the data at the time they need it. Usually hiring is something that happens very quickly. Decisions need to be made, on a whim. And so companies need to move fast. And sometimes in that critical moment, the data isn't there. So if we can use technology to bring that up front for them, then they're going to make much better decisions.
Kind of the sort of thing I suppose you wish you had at your disposal in your life of recruiting.
Exactly. And so we've seen different folks interact with the tool differently, and we're learning every day as we see how people expect the agent to go and do tasks for them or how they're treating their data. And we learn a lot about kind of what they're doing. So evolving the tool as we go along.
I know Open Shortlist isn't the first idea that you've experimented with, but what was your journey like? What's it been like as a founder, Mo?
Well, it's been a tough ride. I think every founder understands what I'm talking about. Usually you go through a lot of experiments and you have an initial idea, initial thought about what you think is the correct problem to focus on or what is the actual solution to that. And usually that's quite a ride and lots of different spins until you end up in the right place. And actually, this is where I think Communitech has really helped us. We're part of the Kitchener-Waterloo scene, and they've really helped us with mentorship, coaching, and just, having a perspective of someone who's been there and done that to help you, declutter and make sense of what you're trying to achieve, look for the right signals. And so that's what the journey's been all about, just looking for the right signals and making sense of all that.
I'm glad you brought up Communitech because it's been my understanding over all of the years that it's existed here in the region is that there's a real sense of collaboration there as opposed to competition with other founders. It's not as though, you can't lean on somebody else within those walls for support as you go along.
100%. And I think not only is the collaboration there, but I think there's also this sense of support and understanding on an individual or customized level to startups that I haven't really seen in different accelerators or different communities that I've been part of. Usually, it's a lot of generic advice, which is great, but once you actually are in the weeds and you're trying to get things done, you really need personalized help, and you need to talk to people that are really relevant to your problems. And I think this is one of the things that Communitech has been incredibly good at and very competent in helping us connect to the right people at the right time. And I think it's made a massive difference.
What is it about the tech ecosystem here in the region of Waterloo, Mo, that makes it an attractive place for a startup?
I think one that's pretty evident is just the talent, and I'm also saying that because that's what I'm involved with on a day-to-day basis, and I can see the difference it makes. Even U.S. companies, when you talk about University of Waterloo grads, they know the value in that training, and so I think the talent is the key component, and I think it's all about the right kind of people being there, people that have also successfully or even unsuccessfully been through the founder journey, and they bring a lot of experiences with them, and they're not afraid of sharing that. I think that combination is powerful and makes a big difference.
Mo, I really appreciate you sharing the story with us today. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Mo Nazaria is the co-founder and CEO at Open Shortlist. He shares his founder's journey, which is never a straight line. I was on Mo's LinkedIn profile earlier today, and let me tell you, the line zigs and it zags, and ultimately it has brought Mo to this point as the co-founder and CEO at Open Shortlist. As somebody who has spent considerable time in the recruiting space, this is a tool that will help organizations cut through some of that clutter. It does, of course, because what doesn't these days when it comes to startups? It employs artificial intelligence, but works very hard to keep that AI tool free from bias. And Open Shortlist is the latest effort for Mo Nazaria, who is also associated with Communitech here in our region, which is an incubator, as you know, that has a very collaborative approach. There's a reason that this region is still considered or often referred to as the Silicon Valley of the North. All kinds of really interesting things going on here. And these founders, these companies support one another. There's a great spirit of cooperation as opposed to competition. I think I've heard that called co-opetition before or something like that. Nonetheless, Mo Nazaria joins us, co-founder and CEO at Open shortlist. Quick break coming up. When we come back, and my heart is heavy as we have this conversation today, because as you would have heard on the show yesterday and throughout All News Mornings yesterday morning with Christine Clark and Mark Douglas, our sports reporter Simon Bennett was telling you about the triple overtime thriller in the quarterfinals of OUA women's hockey. And that triple overtime thriller saw the Guelph Griffins women's team beat the University of Waterloo women's team 3-2. The Warriors were up 2-1 in that game until about 4 minutes to go. That's when Guelph tied it. And then they played almost 3 full overtime periods, with just over 5 minutes to go in the third overtime when Guelph got the winning goal from Tegan McRae. An incredible game. And my heart's heavy because, well, I'm a UW grad. Our Waterloo women's team is once again hosting the USports Women's Hockey Championships, which open just over 2 weeks from now on the 19th in Elmira at the Dan Snyder Memorial Arena. So obviously, we would love to see our black and gold go through the front door, as they say, and win their way all the way to those national championships. Now the women's team from UW will have a bit of time off to regroup and gather themselves together for that championship. And at the same time, look, I know that we have lots of listeners in Guelph. I'm very fond of the city. I like to joke sometimes that, you know, if we're going to talk about amalgamation here in the region of Waterloo, why don't we just throw Guelph into the mix? Come on with your coming on. Think of the big, beautiful place we could have. But nonetheless, soft spot for the city of Guelph. Absolutely love it. And hey, you got to love a well-played game like that. Triple overtime. By the time you get there, you are splitting hairs to decide which team was the better team or which team was the luckier team. Regardless, Guelph comes out on top. They knock off the Warrior women in the quarterfinals and move on. I think Guelph is now playing the Ridgebacks, right? Ontario Tech University. Pretty sure that's who they've got in the next round. And as I said, the Warrior women will regroup and gather themselves together to get ready for that USports Championship, opening on March the 19th in Elmira. As the host team, our black and gold will be a part of it. And we will speak with a former University of Waterloo women's hockey player who now finds herself in the Waterloo Warriors Hall of Fame. That conversation coming up on the Mike Farwell Show. This is 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. The very best women university hockey players in the country are going to be in Elmira just a couple of weeks from now. March the 19th is the opening of the USports Women's Hockey Championship. The University of Waterloo Women Warriors once again playing host to that tournament at the Dan Snyder Memorial Arena. They're in the Woolwich Community Center in the beautiful town of Elmira. Sarah DeMater is an alumni of the University of Waterloo women's hockey team and also a member of the Waterloo Warriors Hall of Fame. Good morning, Sarah.
Hi, good morning, Mike. How are you today?
I'm good, thank you. How about yourself?
I'm great, thanks.
Glad to hear it. How does that land with you when I introduce you as a member of the Waterloo Warriors Hall of Fame?
It's an honor, that's for sure. It was unexpected, but nice to represent the team as the first member there inducted into the Hall of Fame for the school. So pretty cool honor to have, I guess.
When you look back on your playing days, Sarah, and consider how the women's game has grown, would you ever have thought in that first year playing for the University of Waterloo Women's Warriors that we'd see the women's game in the state that it is today?
I mean, you never foresee it, but you always kind of hope it happens, I guess. To see how far it's come and sort of the representation we're getting. I mean, the quality of hockey that you're seeing, just finishing up with those Olympics, the women's hockey in the Olympics was just top-notch stuff. And, when people go in, they watch and, oh, wow, women's hockey's, the quality's there and, the skill. And it's pretty amazing to see how far it has come since, the early 2000s, I'll say, when I played.
The theme of the tournament this year in Elmira, the USports Women's Hockey Championship, see them, be them. And we have so many great role models now for young hockey players. These varsity players are among them. Obviously, you mentioned the Olympics, Sarah, which is huge. We've got the PWHL. Who was an inspiration to you when you got into the game?
Yeah, it was actually really cool to see. When we were watching the Olympics, we'd see the Cassie Campbells and the Cheryl Pounders, and those were the women we used to watch when we were younger, kind of the Haley Wickenheisers, that first team of Canada that you would sort of remember through the IIHF and that first Olympics and things that you can recall. So to see them kind of come around and be now that much of a spotlight through the Olympics, those were the girls that we looked up to back then.
How did you first get started in the game? Put on some skates, pick up a stick. How did it start for you?
My parents put me in, I guess, as soon as girls hockey sort of started in our area in the mid-'90s. I have older siblings, so the boys played and the girls hockey started, and that sort of just my family was a very big sports family, so they made a priority to get us in as many extracurriculars and things as possible. So it kind of just fell in, and I fell in love.
How do you stay connected to the University of Waterloo and specifically women's athletics today, Sarah?
I'm part of the alumni committee through the university just to try and get alumni still engaged in the current team. I have children now. I have one daughter who plays, and she's starting to play, so that'll be the way I sort of stay connected through minor hockey growing up as she grows up. But just kind of, staying connected too with the girls that we used to play with, I think is a big part of it, and keeping those connections strong, especially through events and things like this.
As the mother of that young girl who is starting to make her way through the game, what does it mean, do you think, Sarah, to have this USports Women's Hockey Championship returning to our community for another year?
Yeah, I think it's, such a great experience for our area. It's a great representation of what women's hockey is and will continue to be moving forward. With the success that the tournament saw last year and the team saw last year, we're just hoping it blows up again this year as far as, people supporting and coming out. And I don't think it was realized how big women's hockey became until, some people were in the area and, they would go to these games last year and say, wow, when did that happen? When did women's hockey become that big? And like you said, the PWHL and things are playing a huge portion. So, yeah, that's kind of the excitement, I guess, in having a little 4-year-old who's already on skates and loving it and, wanting to play and wanting to be on the ice, and then to see what she can achieve will be the exciting part of her growing up.
Absolutely. It's so cool to think about somebody at that age who has this opportunity now, in part because of the trail that you blazed, Sarah, as well. One of these earlier versions of women's hockey at the University of Waterloo. When you think back on that, how does that make you feel as a bit of a trailblazer?
Yeah, it's we tried to do what, everyone talks about, is making sure that you expose the game and, just be, like you said, those trailblazers. And, we were pretty low on the trailblazer, I'll say, totem pole as far as the big names and things like that. But any woman and any girl who plays hockey is moving this game forward. So it's awesome. It's awesome to feel that you had a small part of that.
And you mentioned that tournament last year where maybe some people in this community and those visiting for the tournament got to see how big a deal women's hockey has become. That venue that we get to play at in Elmira, the Dan Snyder Memorial Arena, I think the ideal spot for this national championship.
It's a great arena. It's great that it's in a smaller community as far as Elmira goes. But, we had the school day where all the schools came out last year. Like I said, I had friends of ours coming, men who played hockey and came and were blown away by the women's hockey and just, when's the tournament this year? So I think it's such a great exposure for our area. It's a great exposure for the game. So I think, like you said, the arena is, in the perfect location to catapult that.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Great for the women's game, great for our community to be playing host again, and so great to get the chance to catch up with a Hall of Fame member, Sarah. Thank you very much for joining us this morning.
Appreciate it, Mike. Take care, okay?
You too. Bye now.
All right, bye-bye.
Sarah DeMater, an alumni of the University of Waterloo women's hockey team and a member of the University of Waterloo Warriors Hall of Fame. Go Black, Go Gold, the USports Women's Hockey Championship Open, March the 19th at the Woolwich Community Center, the Dan Snyder Memorial Arena, running through the 22nd. See them, be them in our region just a couple weeks' time. This is the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Well, just like that, we have turned the calendar to March, and on this third day of the month, it's already the first Tuesday. And on the first Tuesday of every month, we are joined in studio by our policing leaders, so you can have your policing questions answered directly by them. Regional Police Chief Mark Crowell in studio, and Inspector Scott Griffiths, who's an executive officer in the Office of the Chief. Mark, good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike.
And Scott, good morning.
Mike, good morning.
Good to see you both. And Mark, if I can just start, because we were talking about it during All News Mornings today, another smash and grab jewelry store robbery at Conestoga Mall, echoes of a similar instance in the past. What do you make of these robberies, and what can you tell us about the most recent?
Yes, so thanks, Mike. Good morning. It's a look back to, we had a host of them in the last couple of years, these jewelry store robberies. And the last year and a half, we made significant inroads into preventing them, stopping them in motion. And so in the past week, we've had two. On February 28th, there was one in Kitchener in a commercial complex where three male suspects smashed, grabbed, and fled in a car. And then last night at Conestoga Mall in Waterloo, 4 males are involved in similar behavior. So we are certainly well underway with our investigations. We have a dedicated robbery team and working with other investigative units to track these down. But the work that we're trying to do always is to get ahead of the curve, to work with, could be mall security, the business owners, to bolster awareness, security efforts to prevent these from occurring. We know that this is connected to organized crime activity that often takes us outside of our region to investigate, where we have people coming in here, often in stolen vehicles, to commit these robberies. So it's nothing new. We made great inroads, as I mentioned, the past couple of years on the reduction in prevention. So in 2025, there were 7 robbery store attempts at jewelry stores. But we did see a reduction in total robberies, both commercial and person-on-person last year. So it is one of our top 3 crime suppression categories, and significant efforts are underway.
It strikes me as a real balancing act, because obviously we want to reduce, eliminate the crime, and at the same time we want to make sure that folks are still feeling comfortable enjoying our retail spaces in the community.
It is, and that's the work we're doing with the business owners. And when you think about wanting to have that welcoming experience, especially in a mall setting, they don't want to fortify to the point where they're deterring, people from coming into their stores. But it's the balance of globally the value of, say, gold and metals and other, precious items. They do have a market value that is lucrative, and so the risk is there, and we know this is connected to an undercurrent of organized crime activity everywhere. I would say, though, we've had great working with store security, mall security, and business owners. So we've made some great efforts, and there are things that can be done to fortify the display and the ability for people to access those sites.
Something else I wanted to talk to you about, because it came up at a couple of council meetings recently, and I'll go specifically to the meeting in Kitchener where the language of nickel and diming was used in the course of the meeting. But this is all around bylaw dispatched, which I guess comes from the Police Communication Center. So I'm trying to piece it together, but I'm sure you can help me understand better what change has happened here and what's going on.
Yeah, so all the way back in 2023, we approached our board essentially with an issue of concern. We noticed that our 911 call standards were being impeded basically by the flurry of bylaw-related calls, often non-emergency calls, but there's a critical sort of balance to the number of calls that can come into the center, and then all of a sudden, we're getting behind on our response to 911. The other thing is we recognize that some of the information sharing that was being permitted was in violation of some RCMP and privacy standards. So those were two things we needed to correct. So we approached the area municipalities looking to enhance service to not only the community, who become often frustrated when they can't get through, even for non-emergency reporting, but also to enhance service to our officers in their response and the bylaw members as well. So for a couple of years, we were working on an agreement that would create a dedicated bylaw dispatch line. So for Kitchener, Cambridge, Waterloo, and North Dumfries, when someone calls bylaw, they'll come into a dedicated sort of reception for the call. And then what we're be implementing this year is a dedicated bylaw dispatching capacity. And this will be enhanced service for everybody. So from that meeting that occurred, there should have been no surprise. We would have been happy to have attended to answer some of the questions that arose at a council level. And just for clarity, we've always worked in partnership and always will, but there's no legislative requirement for a police service to provide this capacity to any municipality from a legislative standpoint. So although costs are being incurred, this is a fair, transparent fee-for-service arrangement, of which we have countless examples across our region. So we'll continue to provide, good service to the community, good service to our members, and hopefully a streamlined way of reaching us for bylaw dispatching moving forward.
Okay, so forgive me because I'm digesting this all on the fly, getting the understanding. Yeah. So is that to say, Mark, that for the last number of years, if I'm making a 911 call, somebody on the same street that's complaining about fireworks is coming to the same location? Those calls are going to the same place?
Yeah, mostly, yes. Yeah. So there are some nuances where some of the calls, say for Cambridge, have been going to their dedicated site and then during the daytime hours. But for the majority of what you're describing is when somebody was calling for bylaw dispatching, it was coming to the same site. And we had not been receiving any cost recovery for this. So the municipalities have been accruing to fund their bylaw response operations funds to sustain that. None of that was flowing to WRPS to provide the dispatching and call intake. So just to be granular about it, to be frank, we're still incurring considerable costs to provide this service to our partners and the community. And there's capital costs and ongoing call reception costs that were not passed on through the arrangement. And so these things become complicated with the 4 townships and 3 cities. There's all kinds of arrangements that'll go back and forth. We struck, we feel, a fair, equitable, and transparent partnership, and this is all about serving the community well.
And along with these agreements then that are being negotiated, struck region-wide, we will now have a model whereby bylaw calls for bylaw services are not coming to the same place as 911 calls, so you have a better 911 emergency response.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
And so it'll take some of the bylaw, I would say, traffic off of the main police airwaves as we're responding. But the nice thing that is preserved is the partnership where when bylaw do require police assistance for security, safety issues, then we're still connected through the same infrastructure. And I think that's what was essential moving forward is we want to preserve that partnership so that when we co-respond or when we're called, that we're not fumbling over different channels. We're connected through one network.
Right.
Yeah.
When these criticisms were leveled at the council level, did it ever occur to you, Chief, just to tell the mayor of Kitchener he can set up his own bylaw dispatching service, and he can do the first shift in the call center.
Well, that's the thing. When these things come out, sometimes publicly, it's unfortunate for how they do, and those options are always available. We want to continue to act in partnership, not only because it's probably the right thing to do from an efficiency standpoint. We think that there's many things we can achieve when we work better together.
Just another one of the reasons I will never be a police chief in this. I would have told, let me tell you, I kid just a little bit. I kid because I love. Griffiths, I'm not letting you off the hook today, but I wanted to get clarity on this bylaw dispatching issue. For you, Scott, the numbers, and we've reported on them rather extensively, pretty stark when it comes to increases in impaired driving and fatal collisions year over year. What are we as a police service, what strategies might we employ to bring these numbers down again?
Well, certainly they were troubling to see that at the end of the year that we had 19 fatalities with 20 deaths on our roads. That was a significant increase over the previous year's numbers, as well as a significant increase in our number of impaired driving charges laid. We really take a 360 approach to attacking these issues, and really the goal is to attack the core causes of these. And I know we harp on it a lot, but we often talk about how there are things like the Fatal Four, which is impaired driving, distracted driving, seatbelts, and speeding. And when we look at our crashes last year, we had a significant number of pedestrian fatalities, as well as we had ones where almost a large majority of them were speed involved. So we're going to take the plans that we have. We have a road safety plan that we put out every year, which is sort of the guiding light for our patrol members, for our traffic office, and for our service as a whole, is to take those issues and sort of try to systematically attack them. So when we're talking about intersections, we're oftentimes, if you look at our numbers for distracted driving and seatbelt offenses, like we laid more charges last year in those areas as well. And I think that's because we started to increase our focus on intersection safety. And a lot of times when we're looking for those offenses, we're at intersections out on foot. We're looking for those types of violations. And when you have distracted driving, or you have people who are not sort of paying attention to their role as a driver, when you're going through intersections, that's when these pedestrian fatalities can occur. As well, we're looking at 58% of our fatal crashes last year were in a rural setting. So again, it's refocusing our efforts on rural policing and ensuring that we are addressing some of the outstanding issues in that regard. And some of it is just structural because of the nature of the roads and the nature of the speeds that are out there. But there are things we can do. So we're taking all of those steps, trying to sort of reduce the opportunity, or to sort of give people some education and some enforcement when it comes to like the core causes of these things. And obviously we still work in concert with our townships and with the cities if there are, in the course of our investigations, because they are comprehensive reviews of the collisions when we do a fatality reconstruction. We're looking to see, is there anything in regards to the infrastructure that contributed to this. But when it comes to that's the cities will work cooperatively with them. But when it comes to the human factors, we're trying our best to intervene in those areas.
On the enforcement piece, Scott, the old saying, there can't be a cop on every corner. And I know even though there's a new unit coming on board this year to help with road safety, how much might technology play a role in this, if at all? We talked about impaired driving with vehicles that can detect impairment. Intersections could have cameras that look for distracted drivers. I don't know. I'm just wondering how much it could play a role.
It certainly does. And we're looking at situations where we have now in our vehicles, we've said it before, we have automated license plate readers. So we're looking for drivers. Those will identify drivers with significant driving suspensions or other issues that we need to address. So if we can help reduce those numbers of drivers, because if there's an opportunity to remove someone who's a habitual impaired driver off the road, or reduce somebody who has been suspended repeatedly for other offenses, then we certainly want to do that. As well as we're trying to use as much of the technology as we can, whether it's like you said, intersection like red light cameras or anything like that we can, to encourage people to focus on what they're doing, to kind of give the concentration they can to the road, and to follow those laws so that we can minimize, at the very least. I don't think we'll ever eliminate fatalities on the roadway. The goal is very virtuous, but given volumes and just human nature, we're going to have those. But if we can attack that causality, we can reduce these fatalities.
Inspector Scott Griffiths, Chief Mark Crowell with us in studio. You can have your policing questions answered by these police leaders. Our phone lines are open to you as we continue Ask the Chief on the Mike Farwell Show. 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. It is the first Tuesday of the month, and on that first Tuesday of every month, 11 until noon, it is Ask the Chief, where we have Regional Police Chief Mark Crowell in studio with us, along with Inspector Scott Griffiths, who's an executive officer in the Office of the Chief, joining us to answer your policing questions and mine. Phone lines open at 519-570-2545, star 570 and 1-800-570-5715. Mike, you're on Ask the Chief. Good morning.
Good morning, Chief. I have a question for you. I live in a rural area here. Do the townships have to have an agreement with the police services to enforce bylaw? That's question number one. Question number two is, what are the policies for closing roads? Do the townships and municipalities have to put up barriers so people don't drive down a closed road? Those are my two questions.
Okay, thanks, Mike. And I'll probably draw upon Scott for some help with the road closure stuff. And it's what is sort of legally standing, and then there's what's in practice. So when it comes to your question about do the townships have an agreement with the police to enforce bylaws, I would say no. Most bylaws their origins are in the municipal legislation. They have the powers to enforce and carry those through, and they often employ people for those purposes. The bylaw response capacities in the townships is less than it is, say, in the urban centers. But as peace officers within Ontario, we do have a capacity to enforce local bylaws, but essentially that function is reserved for the municipalities and the townships. Yeah.
I don't know if you'd know offhand, but I'm just thinking what you said earlier when it came to the bylaw dispatching and whatnot. Sometimes police will attend with bylaw. How often does that happen? Do you know roughly how often that's required?
Definitely every day. So the example could be a noise complaint.
Sure.
And bylaw in any municipality responds, and they find there to be a party. There might be somebody who's not cooperative. There could be issues of safety, and that's where we would be called upon to respond. And if we are notified of a safety issue up front, then we may do a co-response because there may be some history of concern at a place. And so that's where the partnership comes through. When it comes to Mike's question about closing roads, it's a bit, case by case in terms of often the municipality, the townships have that capacity to make a decision. But there are certain powers that police officers have for road closures. And often it's done in partnership where it's a matter of if we know that there's a safety issue such as icy roads, impassable roads because of weather, or there's some active investigation, then we're usually calling upon the region or the township to assist us with barricades and so on. And then police are uniquely equipped for road closures under the Highway Traffic Act. So maybe, Scott, can you assist us with just a little more detail with that?
Yeah, I mean, certainly it's very circumstantial. So if you look at the need to do road construction, or if there are certain municipalities, or if a municipality decides that certain conditions dictate that roads in their region or in their township be closed, then that's certainly within the control of the township to do so. But under the Highway Traffic Act, an officer, if he or she determines that the road is not safe to travel on or needs to be closed for an investigative purpose, can order that be closed. We don't carry we don't carry sawhorses and signs with us in the cruisers or even in our reconstruction vehicles. So we will, in those situations, we'll temporarily close it with cruisers, and then we'll ask the township or region to come out and post. And there are requirements under the Highway Traffic Act, and there's plans for like municipalities as to a type of appropriate signage that they have to post. So in most cases, you might see at a road closure closed under authority of a section of the HTA by police. In other situations, if they're doing repaving operations or something where they need to shut the road down, or there's a water main break or something like that, those roads can be closed by the city or township at their discretion. And there is required, obviously, like there's required signage or blockage to do so. So we typically try in situations where people are going around signs or whatever, we try to use education as a means of, redirecting people. But there are times when, if the appropriate signage is posted and we don't have a compliance there, that we can lay charges in that situation, especially when the police have closed those roads.
If you have a policing question, this is your opportunity to get it answered. Inspector Scott Griffiths, Regional Police Chief Mark Crowell in studio with us, and the phone lines are open to you. We'll take more calls and get more questions answered following this update from the 570 News Center. It's the Mike Farwell Show. Ask the Chief on 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. This Tuesday, March the 3rd, is the first Tuesday of the month. And on the first Tuesday of every month between 11 and noon, we invite police leaders, they graciously accept the invitation and come into the studio to say, yes, we'll take calls from your listeners. So that's your opportunity to have your policing questions answered by our Chief Mark Crowell. Inspector Scott Griffiths is with us in studio as well. And the number I know you know, but I'll remind you, 519-570-2545, star 570, and 1-800-570-5715. Lisa is next. Good morning, Lisa. What's your question?
Good morning. I called, I think, beginning of January, the last time, and I'm in air, and about the problem with people not stopping at stop signs. And this morning was a perfect example. I think I walked later this morning, so it was almost 9 o'clock, and people just drive right through. They're not even slowing down to look. And I know I've seen the police around occasionally, but it seems like they're always sitting in the same spot, and it's like during school hours, like at 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning. But I think we need more presence on all of the areas. It's really bad. I walk every morning, and it's so bad.
Lisa, appreciate that call. Scott, what was I saying before about a cop on every corner?
Thanks for the call, Lisa, and I appreciate and apologize that we haven't been able to get out there more often to see you, but we do have monthly road safety teams that focus on rural townships as part of their rotation. Lisa, what I would encourage you to do is, if you are able to please just go online to our self-reporting portal at wrps.ca, and please put in some intersections for us, or some particular ones that you find egregious. And if you've done that before, I'd appreciate if you do it again, just so that we have that additional input, so that we're at the right spots. Because as you pointed out, we're trying to be at certain locations at certain times in order to address issues that we find, whether it be in the section of schools, we're talking about school bus speeds, or stop arm violations and things like that. So we definitely want to be out there. We will do our best to attend those locations that you submit. And again, thank you for your call, and thank you for being safe.
I'm glad Lisa brings this up, because the townships are a whole different beast here, right? Rosie, my puppy, and I walk every day, and there's a particular four-way stop that we're always very careful around, but way slower moving than I'm sure what Lisa experiences with the walk she's talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's sometimes we have that rural urban mix in certain communities like Ayr, because it is both a suburban community, but it's also in the rural area. So we have people who are entering from the rural, and they're not necessarily treating the traffic control with the same respect that they should be.
All right, we'll continue on the phone lines here. There's my mouse. We must be the most popular show in Preston because Preston Paul is a regular. Now I've got a Preston Keith with us this morning. Hi, Keith. Preston Keith.
Good morning, Mike. Good morning, and hello to the fine officers of WPS. I'm from the old days of call boxes, so that was quite some time ago. But my concern that I've been having lately is with the hit and run accidents, and I'm wondering if it's related at all to. I've noticed an increase in deep, dark tinted windows where you can't see the driver, and also quite well known are the license plates that are obstructed. Some intentionally, but some also, unreadable because of their age. But I see quite often that cars are going along, and if I were to try to make a visual identification of the offender or of the person making the incorrect move, wouldn't be able to do it because I couldn't see him. And being that you have to identify the driver in almost all cases under the HTA, I just wondered if there will be an increased program for that.
All right, Keith, I really appreciate that. Go ahead, Chief.
Thanks, Keith. I'll start and then hand it to Scott. You're hitting on two of my huge pet peeves. Is exactly that, the tinted windows where you cannot see inside, and there's a prohibition there, and then the obscured license plates. And we can understand in winter weather, sometimes snow is accumulating during the drive, but I think sometimes people are taking advantage of the weather, and they're also not even replacing plates that become so degraded that they can't be seen. And that's to avoid fines. Sometimes it's to avoid identification. So definitely we're making best efforts through those types of proactive enforcement concerns. But I mean, we have raised this from a public education standpoint through our social media and so on. So I think Scott can maybe provide some insight from a traffic services standpoint. But I just want to acknowledge, Keith, you mentioned call boxes. And for those who aren't aware, this is, what police officers used before radios, where there was, in a certain location, such as in Preston, basically a telephone on a telephone pole. And that's how communication occurred before mobile radios and in-car radios. So that's a throwback for those not aware, but that's the evolution of technology where we are.
I know that, Keith, from emails in the past, and he knows of what he speaks about those call
Absolutely.
boxes. Scott, anything else to add on those tinted windows, difficult to read license plates?
Yeah, I know that the license plates really grind the Chief's gears. That's for sure. I've heard that before from him. Keith, thanks for the call. What I would say to you is that, yes, those things will obviously make identification for hit-and-run collisions more difficult. Hopefully, when you're talking about hit-and-run collisions, they haven't happened to you very often. But in any situation, if we can take any piece of evidence, whether it's a license plate or otherwise, we can try to work with that in order to locate those vehicles. But when it comes to those two different things like tinted windows and license plates, we have, in the last couple of years, we've implemented a training program for our frontline officers as well as our traffic officers. And it's a 3-day course that allows us to identify vehicle modification issues with vehicles and to address those through enforcement and education. So we're teaching our officers what to look for when it comes to tinted windows. We're finding tinted windshields and other things like that, which are even crazier. But as well as when we're stopping a vehicle, what it gives them is the opportunity when they're stopping vehicles to look beyond just the initial offense. Let's say it's a stop sign offense. It gives the officers on the street the opportunities to look a little bit more broadly at the mechanical fitness of the vehicle vis-a-vis the tinted windows and things like that. We also have to look at when we come to fail to remain crashes. We're looking at things like insurances and stuff like that, and we do find through our investigation that we're finding people are fleeing because they just don't have the proper insurance or they're unlicensed or things like that. So we're definitely seeing part of that is adds, and he's very right in saying it adds to that complexity that we have to do to investigate these.
All right. Call box Keith, thanks for the call here today. Next we go to Jeannie. Good morning, Jeannie. You're on Ask the Chief. What's your question?
Well, I've got a question. What does the police consider
assault. If somebody grabs your cell phone out of your hand and confines you into your room, doesn't let you out, is that considered assault?
Thanks, Jeannie. From what you describe, it very well could be. It could also be when you describe the action of grabbing the cell phone or if there's any physical overt action to push or confine in a spot, it could be assault. It also could be forcible confinement, and there could be other offenses that occur. So we always, implore people to give us a call. Let us be the independent, objective party to evaluate. And if there's charges that are warranted and welcome, then we'll pursue that path, often with consent. If it's a domestic violence scenario, that raises some additional considerations for us. But we encourage you or others that have these kinds of circumstances to give us a call. We will respond. We will help.
You are the subject matter experts here, after all. So that's why I'm sure you're encouraging. Don't think about, does this meet the threshold? Call the police and let them help you make that determination.
Absolutely. And there's so much nuance to every case-by-case scenario. And an assault can also be an act or gesture where someone even feels that they were, it doesn't even have to have the full application of a physical touching that can occur. But everything is very nuanced case-by-case. And our role in the community is to assist people to intervene and provide whatever assistance we can.
All right, Jeannie, thanks very much for that call. First time we've heard from Jeannie on the show. We like that. Laura is with us next. Good morning, Laura. What's your question?
Good morning, Chief. It's really not a question. I'm calling to double down on what the other woman called in about with regards to problems in the township with people not stopping and or speeding. Speeding is really bad in the townships. I couldn't tell you how many times I've almost been hit by a car at the lights in Petersburg, walking my dog. Like, people just don't stop for the lights, or they do stop but aren't paying attention, making left-hand turns onto Notre Dame. And, I couldn't tell you how many times I've almost been hit. And the speeding, it's crazy. We have those big trucks going down there heading to the expressway and or the gravel pits. And I'm telling you, they are doing probably 80 to 100 kilometers an hour down Notre Dame. We haven't had police presence there that I've seen in a very long time. And when they are there, they're there during busy times of the day. So the traffic's lined up. So there's not going to be a lot of speeding because there's too many cars. But during off times during the day, like when it's not busy hour, the vehicles are just crazy down that street. There's no way I would even consider stepping out near the street because the traffic, like I said, they've got to be doing at least 80.
All right, Laura, I really appreciate that call and the concern raised from North Dumfries before to Wilmot now. Go ahead, Chief.
Thanks, Laura. And this is why we do this, we have this forum, is to hear from our community. The concerns that you raise are real, and I'm sure they're reflected by your neighbors, and what you observe is real. So we always, even though Scott was encouraging, the online registration of complaints, we do take the live feedback and bring it to the traffic safety team and the applicable community policing division as well. I just raise, Mike, this also raises the issue of automated speed enforcement that we had for a short period in our region, and this speaks to the logic of why we supported that infrastructure, because we cannot be everywhere where there's a concern like Laura or Lisa are addressing. And it wasn't perfect. There were certainly things working through, but it does speak to the use of technology. And then if in the absence of that type of solution, it then does fall to us for enforcement visibility, and then also working with our municipal partners on road design and then traffic calming measures. So as automated speed enforcement was stopped, there was a promise of additional roads calming and safety infrastructure money to be coming across the province. We will be seeking to ensure that we have a seat at the table to determine how can that money be best utilized in our community for the concerns that Laura raised. So we will attend to some of the issues, Laura, that you spoke of in the areas for the roadway use, but I just wanted to raise that as a good conversation for us to have, to say none of our solutions are perfect, but it's not going to be the police solving all of them.
Yeah. And I confess, I thought the exact same thing. What a perfect spot that would be for some photo radar. Scott, your thoughts?
No, just to say that, Laura, I certainly understand your concerns. When I was in the traffic office, Petersburg came up several times, and we did a traffic study out there ourselves in order to determine the origin or the gravity of the problem. And certainly, what you said about is correct, especially in the smaller hamlets like Petersburg, where you're surrounded by 80 kilometer per hour zones, and you have vehicles coming into those zones from into a community where you then have sidewalks and pedestrians and other road users using those things. We have those opportunities for people to disobey the signage as they come into those areas, and they're coming in much faster than they ought to be. So we certainly recognize that issue. We do have, as you said, have officers out. We try to do it through peak periods so that we can address the largest number of vehicle traffic. But that being said, is that does create a gap for those officers, and we'll take that back.
Inspector Scott Griffiths, Chief Mark Crowell in studio answering your questions on Ask the Chief. First Tuesday of every month on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Well, time flies when the questions are being asked, and that's what our police leaders are here for. Regional Police Chief Mark Crowell, Inspector Scott Griffiths in studio for Ask the Chief, first Tuesday of every month from 11 until noon, and we give you the opportunity to call in, ask those questions. And Sue is next with us. Good morning, Sue. What's your question?
Yes. I've noticed that there's so many people now being too lazy to signal lane changes, or even if they're coming out of a driveway, if they're going right or left or something like that. The other thing is people, I think, are getting too lazy not to lean forward in the car, the driver, or lean back, because there are some blind spots, like the bar near the driver's wheel, that you can't see people if they're crossing over. Good example is right at Lincoln at the Bridgeport Plaza. You can be in line and you can see there are actually people crossing, but you don't notice it unless you lean forward or lean back.
Yeah, it's a good point, Sue, and it's mirror signal shoulder check is what I learned back in the day, Scott.
Yeah, absolutely. And Sue, thank you for the call. And the requirement to signal is if your movement is going to affect the movement of anybody else. So if your turn or your lane change is going to affect somebody else's ability or movements, you have to do that. And that's a Highway Traffic Act offense. So failing to signal, oftentimes we do have that where we see people just sort of move over. Is certainly something that we encourage people to use their signals and, like you said, to use your mirrors, because if you are reclined to the point in your seat where you can only see barely over the dashboard, or you're blocked by the A or B pillar, you're going to have your ability to operate impeded. So we can't control how much recline people put in their seats, but if there are issues where people were not, unfortunately, not aware enough to avoid a collision, then they're going to be held accountable for that.
Mark was talking earlier about his pet peeve of tinted windows and difficult to read license plates. I'll tell you what, not signaling, like right up there with my favorites too, and clearly Sue and I are on the same page. When it comes to those blind spots though, Scott, I'm wondering if, like, vehicles today too, I'm not sure that when we engineer them, we always think of that, because some of these larger vehicles, I think, would come with even bigger, greater blind spots on them.
Yeah, absolutely. The design, of certain vehicles lends itself to a huge blind spots. So we have to be cautious. And I'm sure everyone's seen on the tractor trailers where they have those signs on the back of the trailer that says, if you can't see my mirrors, I can't see you, sort of thing. Like, that's an acknowledgement that the design of the vehicles is such as that they need to be in that field for them to be able to recognize you. And thankfully, we have some safety features, but that's not a replacement for observation.
Great points all around. Okay, just a final couple minutes, but I think we'll squeeze in one more. Mark, if you can get right to your question, we'll get right to the answer, please.
Yes. Having lived in Wilmot since 1980s, we used to have, as part of the region, a little detachment there where an officer would be there sitting and handling things, and he was very, very well averse to what was going on in the community, and that, I know it was in the other ones. Now, my biggest problem is now with the rotation of the police officers. Every month or so, you have different officers coming in, and they really don't know what's happening.
All right, Mark, appreciate that call. And Mark, the consideration on staffing, I guess.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. So we have been heavily engaged with our rural leaders, and we miss having that opportunity to connect. So we have a substation in North Dumfries and Wellesley, and we made a commitment within the last year to reinstate a small substation in Wilmot and also in Woolwich as well. So those plans are being worked on right now. And the whole issue about familiarity, everybody knowing each other, knowing the issues is important to us. We have a dedicated rural sergeant that serves that function. We can always do better to engage and connect. And what you're saying, we're listening to, and we're making plans to improve.
Is that dedicated rural sergeant, sorry if I didn't listen closely enough, for all the townships or one in each?
One for all, but he's just meant to be a focal point of consistency for contact, and then filtering all the issues down to all of the dozens of officers that respond across the rural communities.
All right. Some great questions from you today. Really appreciate the participation here. I think that's what this is all about. And you dodged the real hard balls from me today, Chief. So, real quick. Wow, it's Saturday, right?
Yeah.
You're jumping in the cold water.
Saturday at our police headquarters, 1 o'clock, the polar plunge and for the Special Olympics. So we're not looking at the weather, whatever it is, rain or snow.
It's going to be
shine.
double digits. It doesn't count this year.
No, we're going to find a way to make it meaningful, and it'll be a great fun for all.
It's easy for me to say because I'm going to be on the road with the Rangers. True story. I'm not making it up. Thanks for everything you do for Special Olympics in this cause for sure. And thanks for being here this morning.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
Regional Police Chief Mark Crowell and Inspector Scott Griffiths join us first Tuesday of every month from 11 until noon with Ask the Chief. An update from the 570 News Center and then open lines for you to talk back on the Mike Farwell Show. 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
Take out the papers and the trash, or you don't get no spending cash. If you don't scrub that kitchen floor, you ain't gonna rock and roll no more. Yakety yak.
Don't talk back.
Just finish cleaning up your room. Let's see that dust fly with that broom. Get all that garbage outside, or you don't go out Friday night. Yakety yak.
Don't talk back.
I don't mean to brag, but we have set a new record on this radio show. Never have we ever, in the history of this show, done this thing. And I'll tell you what it is in just a second, but I wanted to share this email from Sandy, who writes to Mike at 570news.com. Hi, Mike. I just wanted to say I love the Tuesdays with the Chief segment. Always lots of good questions, so I hope it continues. I'm currently taking part in the Citizens Police Academy with Waterloo Regional Police. It is absolutely excellent, and I highly recommend it. Sandy. Sandy, thank you very much for the email to Mike at 570news.com. It's funny, I was talking to Chief Crowell and Inspector Griffiths just as they were leaving the studio today, and we agreed it's a forum that we all very much enjoy. Frankly, I think that's one of the very essences of what this medium should be doing, providing you access like that to local leaders in any regard, quite frankly. And we did that over the summer with some elected officials. Maybe we can do that again in the summer ahead and get more of those elected officials in here to give you access directly to them. Oftentimes you can listen to them during interviews and get some insight that way. But on the first Tuesday of every month from 11 until noon, Ask the Chief. And there are no plans to end that because it does seem as though it is a popular feature, because when else can you have policing leaders right there at the other end of your phone to directly answer the questions that are in your neighborhood. As for the record that we have established, when you call into this radio station, Jen, who is our board operator today, or at other times it'll be Devin, will pick up the phone and connect you to our system, and then they will put your name on a screen that also is mirrored in my studio, so I know who is there when I click the button to say, hey, so-and-so, it's your turn to talk. And along with that, there is a little timer, so I know how long that you have been waiting. And there's even a little arrow to tell me whose call is next. So it all happens in sequence like that. And so the record that we have just set is Andre's record. He is now a record holder on this show. I'm sure you've heard Andre's name before. He's been a regular caller for many, many years. And according to my timer, he has been on the phone for 3 minutes and 48 seconds as of right now. But I just learned, because Andre called during Ask the Chief in the last hour, and it was so busy that we never got to Andre's call. So during the news update with Matt Hutchison, we watched the numbers, the timer on Andre's call go beyond 59 minutes, and we wondered, what's going to happen next? Is it going to go to 1:00:00? Is it going to go to 60:01:02? No, it just went back to 0. So it hasn't just been 4 minutes and 23 seconds now that Andre's been waiting. It's been 64 minutes and 23 seconds on hold with the Mike Farwell Show. Andre, you are a record holder.
Well, I'm not going to scream like Ketchup Cal, but go Rangers.
Thank you for not screaming like Ketchup Kyle. Go Rangers, yes.
Mike, I wanted to talk about, sadly, but you said that since last year, there's been an increase of 18% arrests of drinking and intoxication, correct?
Impaired driving, 18% increase year over year, yes.
Yeah. But in the positive light...
Wait, there's a positive to that?
You do have to congratulate the officers of arresting that, because if not, it would have been way worse on the street, right?
Sure, that's one way to look at it, yes.
Okay, that's one way. Two, Mike, back in my days, I know it's funny, but my mom used to sign me a piece of paper, go to the corner store, and get a pack of cigarettes when I was 10.
I remember I did the same thing.
Okay. Now, I have my son, he's 11, and we don't live far from the superstore. And, since he was 1, he always walked, because I can't push a stroller being blind. And now I send him to the store to get a couple things. And he's like, Dad, don't worry about the coffee. I know which coffee you drink. Or don't worry about the bread. I've been doing this for 10 years, right, since he was 1. So it's funny, and he's doing it. And now I was going to ask the chief, because I know he's got kids too. And, I can't send him no more because of what's happening twice in the same store. And this store has a lot of kids, and it's right beside a community center. And now because of that, I don't feel safe sending my children to... Is this a kind of world that we're at now in Kitchener-Waterloo, Mike? So do we need this magic eye in the sky?
Yeah, Andre, look, I get where you're coming from, and I'm sorry that you do feel that way. I'm sure you are not alone, worrying about sending your kids out into public and running some of those errands. I remember... Was it the last year or so? I think it was an 8-year-old. I don't know, but some young child went viral because her parents, I believe it was a young girl, allowed her to take New York City Transit all over the place by herself. And it became this really interesting conversation around how far you will allow your children to wander, if you will, when it comes to without parental supervision, and at what age. I'm kind of... in Andre's camp on this. I've had a difficult time. I remember as our daughter was growing up in 12, 13, 14, at that age, I was babysitting for other families in our neighborhood. And leaving her home alone was not something that we did on a regular basis, if we did it at all. Maybe when she was 14 or so. I don't remember the exact age, but it's a weird thing when you're a parent and all of a sudden you're leaving the kid home alone, much less sending them out to go pick up that loaf of bread or that coffee that dad likes to drink or whatever. I can't help but think back on that story, though, and I'll take it a step further, if I may. The story Andre shared about taking a note from a parent to the store to say, here are the packages of cigarettes I want, and please sell them to my kid. They give you the money, and you go and you pick up the smokes for your family. But the corner store in our neighborhood, such was the relationship that my parents had with this store owner that he also carefully and without fail monitored our candy intake. So we had these things called penny candies back in the day, where they were just the open boxes of, little Swedish berries, or what were those? Remember those pink marshmallow things? Kind of like sugary marshmallow. I loved them. Strawberry hearts, did they call? Whatever. Strawberry, doesn't matter. There were all kinds of candies, and there were little brown paper bags. And because they were a penny each, right, you could get 25 of those candies for 25 cents or 50 candies for 50 cents. And you know me and my sweet tooth. I have had this my entire life. My parents were well aware of this. And my mother made sure that Ori was his name, that managed the convenience store right down the street from our house when we were wee lads over in the old North Ward that we used to call it, Mount Hope Bright Up neighborhood. Anyway, walk down the street, just a couple of blocks. You didn't even have to leave the neighborhood, go to the corner store. And it was, don't give Michael any more than 25 of those penny candies. Don't let him try to buy 50. He's certainly not bringing $1 in there. He gets 25. That's it. Little pieces of chocolate, little Swedish berries, whatever those strawberry marshmallow things were called. Remember those bananas? Those like marshmallow bananas that weren't really like marshmallowy. They were kind of hard, but I liked them too. Anyway, penny candy limit at the convenience store, and Ori, being the good owner that he was, made sure that we never exceeded our limit, and we could also pick up packages of cigarettes if we had the note to do it. There you go. This is the Mike Farwell Show on your Tuesday afternoon, the first day of the new garbage bin day. How's it working out in your neighborhood? Have I got emails? And I'd love to hear stories from you. It's the Talkback Hour. Open phone lines just for you on the show. 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. So today is day one of those new big black garbage bins, bigger green bins, larger blue bins, and those big trucks with the mechanical arms are going to be rolling through our neighborhoods, picking these carts up robotically. I was trying to think of the right word there. I don't know why I blanked so long, but it's not a manual job anymore. We're saving people's backs and using this mechanical arm to pick up the bins. And I just wondered how this was going to work out, because I have seen a video posted by the region about where the bins should be placed, which is end of the driveway, basically at the road, and spaced 2 feet apart so that the mechanical arm can do its mechanical thing. And the video that I saw from the region, and then a photo that I saw shared from a local councillor, showed a pretty cluttered end of the driveway. And I'm like, well, how are you supposed to get your vehicle in and out, assuming that you continue with the usual practice of getting the bins to the curb or to the end of the driveway the night before? You're going to be moving bins to move out of the driveway and then stopping your car in the middle of the street and moving the bins back. And I'm just like, how is this going to work? And Russell sends an email to Mike at 570news.com and says, we asked the same thing. We share a driveway, so it's going to be pretty cluttered. But we got a call from Dennis, who is in Guelph and has been using these bins forever. A number of years now they've been in service in Guelph. And Dennis says, don't worry about a thing. You just put one bin on one corner of the driveway and the other bin on the other, which I didn't think of. And I wish, like, here's a heads up to our region when you're posting these videos. Post them that way. Like, I can't believe I didn't think of it. But honestly, when I was looking at these bins all lined up across the end of the driveway, I'm like, I'm never going to get a vehicle in or out of here. So one bin on one side of the driveway, one bin on the other side of the driveway should work pretty well, I guess. Colin sends an email to Mike at 570news.com. Says, we live in the Mount Hope Cemetery area. There are a lot of overhead power lines and a lot of older trees with big branches that overhang the road. So how are these big trucks going to collect with the wires and trees in the way? I'm obviously going to place the cans where they are accessible, but I doubt a lot of other homeowners have thought about it. And every 2 weeks for garbage and recycle is just as silly as the LRT. Don't get me started. I'm sorry you feel that way, Colin. I just, change is hard. I get it. Peter sends an email to Mike at 570news.com. Heard you talking about this morning. My bins got picked up for the first time just as I was trying to leave for work. So I had to watch my bins get picked up and our neighbor before I was able to pull out of the driveway. Not to exaggerate, I was stuck there for 5 to 8 minutes. Not sure if they're just learning and it will speed up, but man, was it ever slow. 2 green bins and 2 black bins. That is interesting. Richard wants to know via email, how do these large garbage trucks navigate street parking to make a pickup? Don't get me started on that, Richard. Have you seen street parking in most neighborhoods these days? And Veronica wants to know, what do we do with the old garbage containers? I mean, our regular black garbage bins and old green bins. That's a good question, Veronica. I was on the Waste Whiz app. I mentioned this to you earlier. The region has this information on the website, and you can follow their social media, I'm sure. But the Waste Whiz app, I love. I've had it on my phone for years. It's very helpful. And the region is actually suggesting that you find a repurposing for those old bins, like a planter or something to hold soil or whatever the case may be. See if you can't put them to use in some other way. Otherwise, you can put them out on bulky items day as garbage and have them collected that way, which I've always found to be a little bit of a paradox, right? Put out for garbage, the former garbage bins. I think that's really interesting. And I just had to share this one from Joyce because it hits so close to my heart. Joyce's email to Mike at 570news.com. I'm not one to call in, but I felt I had to send this email to you. I live in Cambridge, and today is the first day of the new garbage pickup. I know you've been talking about it. I just had to report that the new truck has now been sitting outside my home for approximately 1 hour and has yet to pick up my brand new containers. I think there may be a problem with the mechanical arms. Busted, won't go. So much for efficiency. I had to chuckle. And then Joyce sends a follow-up not long after. Just a few minutes ago. Well, no, not how long after. Hang on, let me give the exact time here. An hour and a half later, Joyce's email says, just a few minutes ago, another small regional SUV came out and assisted the garbage pickup truck that was having a problem. Then the garbage truck was able to pick up my new containers. The mechanical arm came down and all was well. Quite the adventure for garbage collection. So that's about 2.5 hours it took as Joyce just watched all of this go. And then Deb's email to Mike at 570news.com. So here we are, my husband and I waiting patiently to see these new garbage bins picked up by this truck with the arm. And lo and behold, a truck comes by. No arm. Buddy gets out, opens the lid of our new black bin manually, picks out the garbage bags and throws them into the back of his truck. No new nothing. What the blazes? Is it a bumpy rollout, Region of Waterloo? I don't know. I think it's kind of funny, though. Preston Paul, you're on Talkback. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mike. That's a total understatement of the trouble they're going to have.
I don't understand. I want to understand, but I don't.
Yeah, they should make the green bags lighter so they don't kill themselves when they're picking up. Maybe have a shorter shift so they get some rest or something like that. But I just don't understand this new rollout. Like you say, going to have breakdowns and, what's going to happen with that, right?
Oh, that's a good point when it comes to breakdowns, for sure. Yep.
And I got 2 homes across the street that have all kinds of people live in them. And guess what they put out today because it was our old garbage day? I'm looking out now and seeing 2 garbage bags at one house and 2 garbage bags, a green bin, blue bins, and a garbage pail sitting out on the road there, thinking that they're coming by today to pick it up.
Oh, but your day changed.
Yeah. Yeah. But and the people across the street haven't realized it.
Right.
You look around and see nobody's put their garbage out. I'm going to put mine out. Again, the lack of communication, people not paying attention to their neighborhood.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, that just, it shafts my, you know what.
Chafes your chaps. I got you, Paul. I got you. Thanks for calling. Those bags ain't getting picked up either. They got to go in that new black bin. That's how it works now. Paul, good afternoon. You're on Talkback.
Hey, Mike. I had a couple comments, and the last Paul just kind of mentioned it. I saw this new system now. One, if you have more garbage than what will fit in your bin, you're supposed to buy a tag.
Right,
like
yes.
you did the old days.
That's right.
And have it beside, so they're still going to be grabbing your garbage, possibly, and throwing it in. The other thing, you keep mentioning the Waste Whiz app, and I've had it for years, too. Every time I open it, it tells me that it's out of date and it needs to be updated, and I can't find anywhere to update it. Have you ever, you get that too or not?
No, I was just on it yesterday. That's how I had the information I had when I was talking to you today. So I do think I had to update it once, but just go into the App Store and download it again, I guess. It's been perfect for me.
I tried that, but one quick one, you won't like this, but I'll throw it out there anyway. I called earlier, told you I had family that lived in the States.
Yes, sir.
And my brother, the first house he had down there, they had the big garbage bins, and the garbage guys came up to the side of the house and grabbed them on their own and took them out to the street. He never had to touch them.
Come on.
Yep, I want that up here now.
Same. That's what my taxes are paying for, buddy.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Paul. Good to hear from you. And I'll remind you as well, I even shared it on my own Instagram at Farwell_WR. It's in my story if you want to see it. But Play with Clay in the Galt area of Cambridge shared a picture of all of these bins lined up out front of all of these stores in the downtown of Galt, saying there's no room inside to store these bins. So now they sit outside. And Play with Clay in Cambridge describes it as Armageddon because of how ugly it makes their beautiful core in Galt. I don't know, but it's the system we now have. It's in operation today. Talkback continues on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Another one of my buddies from Guelph, Mike, sends an email to mike@570news.com. Listening to the show today sounds like what we went through in Guelph when they rolled out, pun intended, I'm sure, this new garbage bin program. Heck, even the trucks were dropping the bins inside the truck itself. It was a complete joke. But now all is well, and we're used to it, so it will just take KW a little bit of time to get used to it as well. How's it going for you? Or whatever else you want to talk about. It's Talkback. Rob is with us. Good afternoon, Rob.
Hey, Mike, how are you?
Good, thank you. And you?
Not too bad.
Good.
Regarding these garbage trucks now, I'm assuming it's not all electrical. There's got to be hydraulics involved here somewhere.
I would assume you're right.
Okay, so when a hydraulic line blows, even if the operator has a spill kit, once that line goes, by the time he gets a spill kit out, it gets game over. You're going to have people running around with their hair on fire, and it's going to go down into the catch basins and what have you. And then what are they going to do?
Well, that's another great question, Rob. I don't know the answer to that. Maybe they have made it all electrical then just to be on the safe side. But I can't imagine. I think Rob, I don't know. It's happened. They've rolled this out in other communities. We're going to figure it out eventually, I think. John, good afternoon.
Michael, it's Hespler, Johnny.
Hespler, Johnny, I'm good, and you?
Good. You know me, I use either a scooter or a wheelchair to get around, and everybody is putting these bins right in the sidewalk, which they absolutely can't go there. They either go on the boulevard, and if you're curb-faced, they go on your lawn, but the best place they can go is in your driveway. It's going to be a pain, but we'll get used to it eventually. Michael.
Thank you, Johnny. Appreciate it. Don't put him on the sidewalk. Poor Johnny's got to get around. Mike, Farwell's Force member number 37. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mike. To the township to the south of us, they have these things with the mechanical picker-upper things. And what people do in the residential areas is they take their snow blowers and on their lawn, where there's no sidewalk, they just blow the snow, and they put these containers so that people can pick them up. And where they have boulevards, or they use the snow blower to clear a path so they can get out of their driveway. That's what they just do, Mike. It took a bit of, they had some of the same pains, dropping buckets and everything else that have been described. But now people either take their snow blower or the guy who plows their snow. It's just a natural thing that they just shave off the boulevard so they can put their garbage stuff out. And unfortunately, things have to change.
Yeah, that's the big part, Mike, and the change is part of the difficulty here. I understand, and I appreciate that. You're the second person to mention the snowblower idea, so I'll just remind you again. I'm too cheap to buy a snowblower. Sorry. And if I hadn't buggered my shoulder, I think I would have been able to keep the catch basin clear. But if you're doing it by hand, that's a hell of a lot more work than you think. Like even the catch basin this year, granted, it dawned on me late when we had a wee thaw and the street was filling up with water. I thought there's a catch basin down there somewhere. So I dug it out and I kept it dug out until I did my shoulder in. But the plow, like, man, that's nowhere near the actual curb. And I guess I get it. Like, you don't want to be breaking blades or damaging curbs, so you're staying a bit of a ways off. But there's a huge pile of snow that goes onto the road. You know how the roads get narrower in the wintertime because of all the snow piled up at the sides. So that plow comes by every time it just fills back in that catch basin. I'm not blaming the plow driver, but that was just keeping the catch basin clear. Now you want me to keep clear by hand because I'm not buying a snowblower because I'm cheap. I'm going to clear them by hand, a place to put the bins. Like, come on with your coming on here. How about a corresponding reduction in my taxes so I can afford the snowblower? What about that? Terry is with us next on Talkback. Hello, Terry.
Hey, hi, Mike. I thought when you were talking about Andre and his 60 minutes of waiting, I thought I had a long wait once, 20-something minutes with LeBron. He shattered that record by
64 minutes he waited today.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. You should buy him a medal, man.
I will. I'll buy him an Andre medal, yes.
Yeah, talk about these new garbage bins. I mean, we don't have them out where I live yet. I'm sure it's probably going to eventually come. But wait till a windy day when those things are flying down the road all over the place.
I think they're too heavy for that.
Oh, I don't know. It's just plastic, Mike. I've seen them as I'm driving out and about in some country or rural areas have them, and I've seen them out there, and they do blow around a little bit.
Really?
Not like, yeah. I mean, it's out in the country, so they're pretty much scattered about. So there's only every house that would have them. But in a city street where there's many houses and those things are blowing. But even the recycling bins, on a windy day, I just put them in blue clear bags and just sit them out there. I don't even put my bins out anymore because I know I'm just going to end up losing them and have to replace them by going to Canadian Tire or Walmart to buy because that's where we get them out here. They don't have a depot where you can just go pick up a replacement bin. We have to actually buy them, and like you said, being cheap, I don't want to.
Attaboy, Terry, attaboy.
I don't want to keep coughing up money like that. But yeah, that was my thought: is wait till a windy day and those things are blowing all over the place. But yeah, Mike, that's all I had to say. Thank you, sir.
All right, Terry, thanks for calling in. They seem pretty heavy to me. And pretty sturdy, but I don't know. And we've got the new blue bins now too, which my coworker was in here. He's always a good source of extra material. He said that the region is rolling out the green bin or the new garbage bin program now to distract from the water issue, just like President Trump started a war in Iran to distract from the Epstein files. You see, he was just kidding. But I thought too, like, the blue bins are not being picked up by the mechanical arms. That's still going to be a human being in there. Is that right? Okay. I didn't know that. I thought the blue bins, because those are big suckers too now, because you're only getting bi-weekly blue bin collection instead of every week, right? I thought the big mechanical arms going to pick up those suckers too. I'll throw my other shoulder out trying to carry those things up from the basement. Walter, you're on Talkback. Hello.
Hello. Yeah, Mike, what you're talking about, what I was going to talk about.
The blue bins?
Blue bins. Yeah, the blue bins. Right now, how we are, it's our garbage. It gets picked up every other week, and our organics and our recycling gets picked up every week. I don't know why they are changing the recycling to every other week. Have you ever seen how much packaging material is in anything that you buy? I'm sure you have. I mean, our blue bins, I can barely get by, from week to week with, the two that I have.
Same.
And those other ones, they're not any bigger. Those new ones, they're the same size as the one that I have now.
Oh, no, ours are bigger for sure.
So, not by much, I'm telling you, because I handed out those new green bins, I don't know how many years ago, and we got a couple of recycle bins, and it's a lot bigger than. But anyways, I don't understand the mentality of that. Like, why not pick up the recycling every week and keep the garbage every other week, like it was in the past? Like, I don't understand that mentality at all. Mike, maybe you can help me out with that because you're the wizard. You know everything.
All right, Walter, thanks for the call. I, too, wish that recycling was still coming weekly. I do not like it, Sam. I will not eat your green eggs and ham. I don't want my blue bin collected biweekly. The first thing that comes to mind, Walter, is cost, right? It will cost less to have the blue bins collected every other week as opposed to every week. That's, I don't know. But the green bin is the only one that's getting picked up every ding-dang week from now on. Dawn, you're on Talkback. Hello.
Hey, good afternoon, Mike.
Hi, Dawn.
Over in Perth County, in the beautiful municipality of Listowel, we've had these bins for, I'm saying, the better part of 5 or 6 years, and that's the greatest thing since sliced bread. So my advice to the people of Waterloo Region, just mind your time, and everything will go tickety-boo.
I love it, Dawn. Tell me, what makes it so great? Because I want it to be great. I really do.
Just the convenience. Like, you don't have bags laying all over and odd-sized boxes, and it's just so convenient. Like, where I live in Listowel, garbage gets picked up every week and recyclables every 2 weeks. So, as the one caller said earlier, I put one on one side of the driveway, one on the other side of the driveway, and I can still get out.
Beautiful. And now, for your recyclables in Listowel, do you have the big blue bin on wheels as well?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I've seen that because we don't have those here, but that's a minor thing. But, okay, so greatest thing since sliced bread, you say?
Oh, for sure. So my advice to the people of Waterloo, mind your time. And like I said, everything's going to be tickety-boo. You'll have people calling in saying we should have done it long ago.
Now, are you in a more rural area, or are you in a subdivision with a lot of houses around, Don?
Right in the subdivision of Bristol.
Okay, good. Love to hear it. Thanks, Don. I appreciate that.
Thank you. Bye.
All right, bye-bye. There you go. Just give it some time. Change is hard, right? It's hard for me. I want nothing to do with this, but the collection day's coming on Thursday in our neighborhood. And we've heard some stories this morning about the truck that was outside Joyce's place for 2.5 hours. And the other place where the mechanical arm kind of got it wrong. It's going to take some time. But Dawn says it'll be the best thing since sliced bread. And if you're from Listowel, you know what's what, right? Talkback continues on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Okay, now I got a bigger problem. That same coworker who said the region's rolling out the program now to distract from the water issue. What do you mean you don't put a bag inside your green bin, do you? I just throw the bags in the bin. I'm not going to any extra effort on that. It's a bin. Anyway, I'm not putting another bag inside. Where are you going to get a bag big enough for the new green bin? Stop it. Oh, I'm getting old. Every day I'm getting older. Bill, you're on Talkback. Good afternoon.
Yeah, hi, Mike.
Hi, Bill.
Talking about cost of things in this city, I sit here as a retired person watching out my window and watching the city with the big sidewalk plow run through every morning, snow or dry, like this morning at 6 o'clock, flashing lights going through on a complete dry sidewalk. What the heck do they think they're doing?
Where the heck were they when there wasn't a dry sidewalk?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then it takes a long time to get there.
Exactly.
But 6 o'clock this morning, for heaven's sakes, it's completely dry. Everything. Your streets are dry, frozen dry. Not a speck of snow on them. And they're plowing through and the flashing lights going.
Well, you know what they say, Bill. When it comes to the union, right? You got to make work.
Yeah, I suppose. I don't know.
Thanks for the call.
Okay, thank you.
All right. You take good care. Bye-bye. You know what that reminds me of? Speaking of the cost of things. Can you explain to me how the bombing started 4 days ago, and now we're going to blame the increase in gas prices on the U.S. attack of Iran? 4 days ago. Oh, yeah, now the gas prices are going up. Shh. Stop it. Stop. I'm not a turnip, okay? I do not like being treated like a turnip. Doug, good afternoon.
Yeah. Hi.
Hi, Doug.
I'm in Guelph, and we've had the bins for years. They are like the guy in Liswell. They're amazing. Once you get up the idea, get the big bin for the gray, get the big bin for the blue, and it's every other week. You don't need it every week if you've got the big bin.
You get so for your big green bin, you have another bag that goes...
No.
Sorry.
The big gray bin, a big gray bin is for the stuff that goes to landfill. The big blue bin is for your recyclable stuff.
Yeah.
And you get a green bin, which is slightly smaller for your kitchen, food stuff.
Okay, so we're the
right?
same, except our blue bin is not on wheels. Our blue bins are just the old boxes.
Eventually, you'll get the blue bin on wheels.
Okay.
Couldn't be better. Now, just a word to the wise on your green bin. You've got the little paper bag that you get at Costco and everything. It goes in your kitchen and it's just a little tiny bag, and you throw that in your green bin.
That's exactly what I do. Yeah.
In the summer, freeze that bag.
Freeze the bag?
Freeze the bag for if your pickup is on Wednesday, freeze the bag on the weekend or whatever when it fills up, instead of throwing it out into the summer hot weather.
Oh, you mean you put that bag full of stuff in the freezer?
It's sealed. Put it in a plastic bag, like a regular shopping bag that you used to get, because you still got some of those. Put it in a plastic bag. Put it in your freezer. And put it in the freezer downstairs if you want.
All right.
Otherwise, you get maggots.
I don't want that, Doug. I know. I've seen in my green bin outside. It's disgusting.
Yeah, they smell. It's horrible. Anyway, once you get the big blue bin and the big gray bin on wheels and everything, couldn't be better. You've got a building supply stuff from a reno, a do-it-yourself reno you got, throw it in the gray. You don't have to go to the dump.
All right, Doug. I like it, buddy. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, take care. Good to hear from you. I'm learning. It's going to be the best thing ever. I think two things. First of all, multiple freezers. Maybe he means the freezer that's attached to the fridge and another freezer in the basement. I don't know what kind of life of luxury you're leading, but boy, oh boy, I think we dropped like $140. Maybe it's a little more than that on our downstairs freezer. Little stand-up sucker full of meat, full of food, because we want to, preserve and buy stuff in bulk when it's on sale and things like that. We mind our pennies. Sorry, we don't have those anymore. We mind our nickels in the Farwell household. And I got no garage for these bins either. That's one of the other parts that frustrates me a bit. Brandon is next on Talkback. Hey, Brandon.
Hey, how are you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm great, Mike. Yeah, so I live in Guelph, and I can echo that. The bins have been fantastic. No issues. As for spacing and stuff like that, it hasn't been an issue. I can attest that I do not put my green garbage in the freezer, but to each their own. The biggest concern, as you guys kind of alluded to, was the maggots and stuff like that in the summer. And that's going to open up options for people to start businesses out there. There's businesses that have been started in Guelph for people going around and washing bins and setting up regular services and stuff like that. So it is a good opportunity for other businesses to start doing something, but these are the kind of precautions that come with that kind of service.
Brandon, appreciate the bird's eye view from Guelph. Thanks very much.
Take care.
Great hearing from you today. And I've seen these. I've seen it advertised. Maybe one of my neighbors was getting it done, or maybe they work there. I don't know. The vehicle was in their driveway, coming by to clean your bins for you. Hey, enterprising folk out there want to make an extra buck. George in Cambridge is on Talkback. Hey, George.
Yes, 00 George here.
Yes, sir. 00 Farwell's Force member number.
Yes. Mike, I want to bring this up. I'm not sure if anybody else has said this yet. What if I just don't want to use my green bin? Is that okay?
If you don't want to use your green bin?
All I'm going to do is garbage and recycling. If I don't want to use my green bin, is there a problem with that?
Well, it just makes you a bad environmentalist, I guess. What are you going to do with the food scraps?
I might put in the backyard and do, what's that soil thing people do with their food?
Composting.
Composting. Maybe I'll get into composting or something.
You could do that, I suppose.
Okay.
Okay. The only thing I would worry about, George, is if you're doing that, are you going to put your food scraps in the garbage that's only getting collected bi-weekly? Because that's part of the problem that attracts all them critters, right? I don't know. Jim, you're on Talkback. Hello.
Hey, Jim, how are you? Or Mike, sorry.
That's all right. You're Jim. I'm good. How are you, Jim?
Yeah. I'm good.
Good.
I'm just going to give out a shout out here to a local business that one of your other callers, I think this is a good opportunity for the youth in the community, can offer some services to neighbors, elderly, vacationers, or those that head out of town for a while. And I know my son and some of his friends are offering the weekly and monthly services to come around and help those, getting their bins out to the curb and back, and hopefully expanding into that washing service. So for anyone interested, it's starting locally, but check out breslawbinassist@gmail.com. And there's some great young lads here that would be excited to assist you and get these, some of these burdens off.
I love it, Jim. Appreciate the call. Thank you.
Take care.
You too. That is smart business as far as I'm concerned. breslawbinassist@gmail.com. You heard it right here from Jim. Just let it stand the way it is. Some enterprising folk can create a business enterprise out of this, and we can adjust as best we can to the new garbage bin rollout. It's underway. It sounds like it's been a bumpy start, but Guelph and Lista will say, hang in there, KW. We'll get there. I got to go. I'll be back tomorrow morning at 9. You're invited to the conversation. My name is Mike Farwell. You are a force for good. Bye for now.